Testing. There we are. Chat. Oh, we got a little mic cable situation. There we go. We got it set just right. I think if we don't move, if we don't bump the cable, we should be good to go. We'll see if we lock in here. How long it lasts for. Ayo, pause right off the bat, but we got a lot to get into on the last week of the NFL regular season. Week 18, the late window is full of games. It's going to be exciting. We've even got a little, some fun NBA on as well, too. Michael Porter Jr. revenge. 1, 2, 3. There we go again. Hey, see, okay, it's good. We'll see. IT issues is not new to the REMINGTOM pod, so stay tuned. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, I guess Michael Porter. But once we mention Michael Porter on YouTube, I guess the mic cable gets a little tricky. It is what it is. But in terms of a revenge game situation against Denver, of course they traded him for Cam Johnson. I mean, overall, and we'd have to go back and I guess double check directly their salaries as well too, and the full. I guess hey yo, I say we have to. We can go ahead and just take care of that right now, because they did of course give Michael Porter a max contract or deal, and he was one of in terms of the salary guys there, and when they originally started as well too with building that team, Jokic emerging, his fall in the draft, but then like, oh, he's going to be one of the three main guys there. Turned into more, Aaron Gordon, of course, when they got him from the Magic. But he has been crazy efficient this year in Brooklyn. You can't necessarily say that it's a bad trade for Denver because, and Denver is one of those teams that, again, it's difficult to say that could Michael Porter Jr. have not done this season as well too, just because Jokic is so capable of getting the best version of play out of the different teammates. But it was, I guess it was a smaller trade. It was traded by Denver with a 2032 first round pick to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson. 2032. Denver also received a trade exception. Maybe we have to go back and did they already use that trade exception up? Maybe they did. But yeah, he had a 5-year $179 million contract. So right now he is $38 million, then $40 million next year. So is Cam Johnson $38 million, $40 million right now? Or I guess Brooklyn probably had the cap space as well too to be able to do a little bit more of a one-for-one situation like that. And if that is the case as well too, making that investment, especially now when as you get closer to the aprons and stuff, your just mobility as a team, your flexibility, of course, becomes more limited. It really is this like the bodybuilder league, chat? As your team bulks up, you lose mobility. I don't know, but Cam Johnson, Cam Johnson right now is $21 million this year and $23 million next year. So I don't know if Basketball Reference just has 2 years listed for each, or if they're both just on the same deal. They probably are. I guess we could go back and look. They could be same draft class as well too. Was Porter 17? Let's see which one was Cam Johnson in here. He might have been 18. Oh yeah, Cam Johnson was 19. So I guess maybe, and I guess he was in college a couple years more as well too. Porter was still only in college for the one season, even if unfortunately the season didn't end up necessarily going like we'd expect. And Cam Johnson as well too. Jokic not the only one that is injured right now. And speaking of Gordon, he was out. Braun has been out, so I think both of those guys are playing in this game. And Murray has had some some flashes as well. He's definitely been pretty good over even since obviously this year with Jokic. But if you're losing your top 6 guys, I don't even know what you expect Jamal Murray to do at this point. But their offense has been keeping up a little bit in some of these games. Yeah, they are, they've lost 3 of the last 4. They got Toronto, but they were close in the last game versus Cleveland. So that was a fun one. And Murray was cooking in that one. He had 34. So, we were definitely tuned in for that. That game might have been on Peacock. That's probably why we were locked in. But I guess Miami and Orlando, they were a little farther behind in the score. They gave up like 150 each in both of the, well, I guess 127. Okay, well, Orlando was a 1-point game, so Miami was the one team that got them pretty good over the last couple, and they got I guess Minnesota at Christmas. That would go back to Jokic. Okay, so yeah, that would be before he got hurt. I guess was Jokic was playing in the Orlando game though. Here, wait, did he get hurt? Was the Orlando game or the Miami game the last game that he played? And okay, yeah, the Orlando game was the last game that he. I guess here, let's double check. The Miami game. Did he play in the Miami game? Has it only been 2 games since Jokic has been out? It's definitely been 3. Hey, yo, there's no way. It's we need him back, chat. It is what it is. Yeah, so it was the starting lineup for them against Miami. Miami was Murray, Spencer Jones, shout out, Peyton Watson, Tim Hardaway Jr., and there we go. Jokic is there too. So Jokic just got they just got crushed by Miami. It is what it is. Going up against Norm Powell. You know, you're facing another first-team All-NBA guy. And what do you expect? Norm Powell, 19. Did he lead in scoring? Oh no. Okay. Oh, they have 25. Wiggins had 19. Jovic 22, 7 for 12. The better Nikola in that game. How many games has Jokic not been or I guess Jokic, yeah, you know, Nikola. How many games has he not been the better guy with the name? Hey yo, -1 on the box score. I guess not bad when you lose the game by 40. He only played 19 minutes, but still Nikola Jovic in the game plus 24. 7 for 12, 22 points. Hawkes, 8 for 11, 20 points. So they were getting cooked by the Heat bench. It is what it is. But yeah, hey, yo, it's only been, I guess, 2 complete games that Jokic has been out. It is what it is. So, they competed against the Cavs, like we were saying. That's fun. But hey, yo, it's gonna be a long 4 weeks. They said 4 weeks. Hey, yo, no disrespect to Cam Johnson. Again, it is, directly with Jokic on the team. He's got to be able, he was winning games with lesser teammates and still managing to, keep the entertainment value high and all that. But this is going to be brutal. This is going to be tough. And, we've had our stretches, of course, where Giannis goes out for the Eastern Conference. And, you really feel it as well, too. Pause. The Eastern Conference has had those moments where, you're like, hey, yo, the star power in the West definitely seems to how much. It's basically been that for the entire regular season. It is what it is. But so far, if Jokic goes down, at least, makes it a little more even at that point. But we got to at least get into week 18, I guess, a little bit, start getting into some. We got playoff pictures and stuff. I don't know, all pro teams to figure out best of for the seasons. We got some of the, of course, first quarter action starting to wind up here as well too. Drake May I guess we could double check the odds. Is he actually now favored to win the MVP, or have we just made up our minds that it is Stafford? I don't know if MVP is the place to start. Hey yo, I guess here we can see where we're sitting at live in week 18, because we've mentioned some fun names in the past. I feel like we're the king of why is this quarterback not in the MVP conversation? Then you're like, oh yeah, or why is this non-quarterback not in the MVP conversation? You're like, well, wait a second, because it's all for the quarterbacks. And I know that when we were looking at the odds, even if Stafford, the guys that were competing against Stafford were also quarterbacks as well too. So I don't know how dramatically it's flipped since we've had some Saturday games and stuff, and we haven't checked the odds, I guess, over the past week. But if we're able to actually get into the sports book here and see, are we gonna have to download an app, chat? Well, hey yo, it is what it is. Okay, give us a second. We'll be tapped back into the FanDuel Sportsbook. We're gonna have to go mobile for the research today. Ayo, it is what it is. We got too many programs open on the computer. IT, clear some of these tabs. What are we doing? Ayo. So we got a slow moving computer that we're gonna have to battle. But if we can lock in on mobile here, we can actually see what's going on. So yeah, for NFL MVP, We've got Drake May, not only favored, minus 340. Minus 340. Stafford is plus 270. Lawrence is third at plus 22,500. Hey, yo. Josh Allen plus 30,000. MVP, are we reading that right? I don't know. But Drake May is minus 340. So this game against Miami, I guess they've scored again. Is it 14-0? You know, you're going into the week thinking that if he is going into the week as the favorite, again, Miami, I guess, could be one of those teams going into New England that is a feisty divisional matchup, but still does seem like, of course, New England, and to their credit, as much as we've clowned them for their schedule, they have taken care of business against some of the teams that they should have, and have definitely been dominant in that factor. So again, is it Stafford's fault that, he's going to lose the MVP because he's losing to the 1 seed and losing to the Seahawks? Are the Seahawks going to be in the Super Bowl? Who knows? But, regardless, Drake May has, like we're saying, yo, we're back testing. Okay, there we are. We're chilling. We're good to go. But I don't know. I feel like this year, again, and they have the record and maybe the 1 seed potential to back it up as well. So they're going to have that team status that is required for the MVP. But the other team in the NFC that is getting left off in terms of this recognition stuff, and again, you got Stafford at plus 270, but I guess here we got to now double check the NFC playoff standings. Because, and I guess you could, again, argue more so status than if we double check the actual record. But they could be the 3rd team in that division. And, again, we love Stafford as well, too. If it is a choice between the veteran and the rookie, I guess. Hey, yo. Is that a Disney Plus original about the MVP run for this year? I'm not sure. But, we would, or, if it's like the F1 for, if somebody's like trying to remake F1 for NFL, and then you got the veteran, I guess they wouldn't necessarily be on the same team. So that wouldn't work. If you had 2 NFL MVP candidates on the same team, I don't know. Can you make that work? I guess it could be just more so a general like Brady Bledsoe situation. Ayo, is Brady Bledsoe F1 for the NFL? I'm not sure, but it would have to be more so like that. I don't know if you could have, it be an MVP race situation. It might just have to be a battle for the starting job. But for the NFC conference this year, they're 6th, and San Francisco is 5th. So I guess San Francisco is sitting at 12 wins because the Rams haven't played yet. So I guess if the Rams, if they're able to match that, I guess we could double check the winning percentages. But conference record, the San Francisco is 9-3, and the Rams are 6-5. So I don't remember if that's the divisional record. Still, the Rams are the Niners are better there as well too. So I guess are those the 2 next tiebreakers that they would have to face, and probably why they're sitting again above them at this point. So not to, like we're saying, discredit the season. All these teams are battling. These are arguably maybe the 3 best teams in the league. I don't know in the AFC if a team has emerged that we feel more confident in at this point over any of those 3 teams. But regardless, Seattle is the 1 seed right now. They're a 14-win team, and yes, we could obviously give credit. We're not going to not give credit to Sam Darnold. And I was seeing some of the stats as well too of like the first quarterbacks to win back-to-back, or the only quarterbacks to win back-to-back 14-game seasons is Brady and Sam Darnold. So, it is a little bit more impressive, and I guess we'd have to double-check when Brady was doing that as well, too. Was that in Tampa when it moved to the 17-game mark? Or did he have those back-to-back seasons? That probably would have been... It wouldn't have been 06 and 07, would it? Did they win 14 games in 06 and then undefeated? Because 07, 08, he got hurt as well, too. Hey, yo, chat, we're going to have to Control-Alt-Delete this window. It is what it is. I think we've given it enough time to try to load. We get it. It's not responding. Okay, IT timeout. But I guess for Brady, because again, the regular season for Tampa there was pretty crazy. 13, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Oh, 03, 04. Oh, it would have been in the early years for the Patriots. So, again, the years that you sometimes don't give Brady credit for in the run and say it's the defense. This was their best regular season run. In 10 and 11, 2010 they were 14-2, and then 2011 they were 13-3. So, again, I guess Brady better winning percentage over those two seasons, but Sam Darnold better stats. Brady 60% completion percentage in those 2 years. What was it? 3,600 yards average, 25 touchdowns, 5 picks between the two seasons. And then the next year, 05, they were 10-6, but that's kind of the first Big Brady stats year. He actually led the league in pass yards, 4,100 pass yards, 26 touchdowns, 14 picks, though, probably not, helping for the record. 4 game-winning drives that year, 5 game-winning drives in 03. So that first 14-2 season. So 11-3 in 01, 9-7 02, and then back-to-back 14-2 season. So it's him and Darnold again. Hey yo, definitely Darnold worthy of being in the conversation. If we run through an all-pro argument in a second as well too. Again, his name has to be one of the names mentioned for that accomplishment. But I don't know. I just think JSN has to be on the ballot in my mind. And again, I understand that a quarterback can't win the MVP, but I don't also understand why it has to be the top 3 quarterbacks have to be all in contention. Again, if you go into the award maybe going, okay, and is it 3 or 4? I know the Heisman, you get 4, but the NFL, they only get 3 guys now that actually go for like the nominees. And then maybe there's, a couple more guys on the ballot, but they only send the top 3 to NFL honors now or something like that. But I guess we haven't watched the show in a couple of years. We go back to the Conan days. Is the format still the same? But, if you go into the award and the nominees, the top 3 are Drake May, JSN, and Myles Garrett, or some other, non-quarterback, 2 non-quarterbacks and a quarterback, you're probably going to think, okay, well, I guess we know who the winner is. But, and again, maybe it's not every season. It needs to be that, that distribution for the positions. Pause. But, sometimes, I don't know, is the NFL MVP getting a little missionary with the just picking quarterbacks every time? And maybe this year it does need to, because again, Stafford, not to just bring it all down to record as well too. But I think if you take JSN out of that offense and, again, if you directly replace him with Chase or Jefferson or, a handful of guys, I guess there are other, great receivers in the league. But in terms of, what they were producing with the talent around them and what the team was able to achieve overall, and, if we're, again, comparing him to Chase, like if Burrow had stayed healthy all year, could they have been the Seahawks of the AFC? Probably not, though, because, again, the Seahawks defense is really good and was able to, they create turnovers, obviously maybe more playmakers there than what Cincinnati is working with. But I think maybe it's Stafford. Maybe I'm not even kicking. Maybe Stafford's not the one that's off the ballot, in this case as well, too. Maybe Josh Allen has to, but I don't know. I think Josh Allen is up there as well, too. And maybe it has to be 4 or 5 guys. Can we make it 4 or 5 guys at NFL honors? Herbert as well, too. It gets a little bit more technical in terms of, who is the MVP in the stats and in the eye test stuff versus, who is the actual, again, what we need from a record and for the sort of baseline, just what is in our mind sort of you need to get to win the MVP. But the Chargers are not too far off there. I guess him not playing today, is that's if the MVP was on the table for him. But, he's not necessarily going to have that last game crazy stats. Taking down Denver could be an interesting narrative for that potentially. But I guess they're going to, they go with the rest with the amount of pressure and running around that he's been dealing with all year. Just it's just an admission that you can't protect Herbert for one more game. Is really what it is. It's like, okay, this game doesn't mean anything, so we literally cannot risk it. And I guess we could double check. I'm sure Herbert's, again, he's dealing with something. It is what it is. Shout out. And I guess he has been a little interception heavy. Just looking at the box score this year. Here, where is he at? 13. So Herbert, double-digit picks every year. He is not afraid to, throw it around. Hey, yo, 26 touchdown, 3,700 yards, 26 and 13. So yeah, he could have used this game to get to 4,000 yards. The statistical, not to, make a Mahomes comparison. What do we turn into Collinsworth over here? But, he was 4,300 yards, 5,000, 4,700 yards for his first 3 years, and then 3,100, 3,800, 3,700. So, again, the last 2 years a little bit more healthy than, 3,100 yards. He only played 13 games that year. But still, just, looking at it visually. But regardless, he has been, up there for quarterback value. I would say more value than Stafford. Would and you have to think timelines, and I get all the difference. Herbert, could you have Herbert on the Rams for 8 more years? But for this season, would you consider trading Herbert? Maybe it was the wrong take. Okay, that one we just with that one we bumped it. That was our fault. It is what it is. We can't blame the mic cable. We knocked it out that time. Pause. But I guess maybe that's a proof that Stafford, you wouldn't trade him for Herbert, but you have the experience factor, of course, the Super Bowl, just the memories, I guess, of these last couple of years of being a Rams fan. It's been good times. Quinn Ewers, though, 7 for 8 for 69 yards. I don't know if we're the number one. We've turned into the random number one monitoring Quinn Ewers stats, but he's looked okay. So, but if you were just thinking about for this season, that would be a really, really tough debate. And, there's really no reason to, why would you trade that? I think it just goes down to that. Like, why would we make that move? Is there maybe an extra level that Herbert could unlock with the team that is that ultimate swing that you could take? Sure. But I think you're probably pretty safe with just, continuing to run it with Stafford. But, maybe, and Purdy as well. Like, I think, maybe we should mention Purdy. Like, wait, where was Purdy at in the odds? Here, wait, let me pull those back up and see where he fell. His name is not even listed. I guess it would be games played for him. How many games did he miss? If he got to, I guess Mahomes in 12 games, we can't necessarily consider, now we are Collinsworth. It is what it is. If Stafford can win the MVP, why not just give it to Mahomes this year? I don't know. Mahomes is the best in the league. He needs another MVP. But for Purdy, 9 games played. I mean, he won. He was 3rd in Rookie of the Year, I guess, in 9 games played. So yeah, probably can't win the MVP in 9 games, but in 20 touchdowns, 10 picks in 9 games. Whoa, Purdy! Hey yo, can we check the game log here real quick? Some of that was early in the season as well, too. The first 4 games that he played, not necessarily the first 4 weeks, but his second game back, he was 3 picks in that Carolina game, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, but 2 picks in each of his first 2 games is, knocking up the stats there as well. But he has had at least 1 pick in each of the last 3. Of course, I guess the last one, against Seattle in this last game was maybe not necessarily on Purdy, so we'd have to go back and double check the Chicago one and then the Indy one as well too. Was that a defensive lineman that got was there a defensive lineman situation in there? I'm not sure, but Chicago, he was really great in that game. So, and he's been 70% completion percentage in every game except for 2 this year. They won against Cleveland 55%, and then Jacksonville they lost early in the year 57%, 309, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and that doesn't even look too bad anymore as well. There's probably some Jacksonville overreactions we could get to in a second. So maybe Purdy is more, MVP again in theory, like just keeping an eye on him for maybe playoff performer, MVP potential. But I think that JSN has to be one of the top 3 MVP guys in the list. And if we go for stats as well too for the season, 1,700 yards, it's really great. Again, we've had some all-time seasons lately and some guys that have been on pace for some stuff. So I feel like that kind of that kind of you get to the end number and you're like, well, wait a second, JSN was supposed to have like 2,300 yards. What happened? Tyreek Hill had that start to the season a couple years ago where he did get to around this 1,700 yard mark. And it was like, well, wait, Tyreek Hill was supposed to get 2,000 yards and break the record. Cooper Kupp almost got there. So we've had some pretty crazy numbers as of late. Is Trubisky putting up crazy numbers? He was 8 for 10 when I just saw his box score. Real quick, maybe Josh Allen out of the MVP voting because of that. I don't know. And then just, Myles Garrett having a historic season as well, too, scrolling through the stats, looking at his sack total. And, Puka is right there. I think Puka and Stafford maybe canceling each other out a little bit. But I think again, is this Puka's fault? I guess at some point, it is what it is with your teammates. But I think you would probably trade Stafford for Darnold. I guess at this point, the Seahawks are the 1 seed. So again, why would you do that? If it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the sort of ultimate, the legacy stuff and I don't know, Stafford just still I don't know if we just get infatuated by the throws that he's able to make and you just still think that, okay, he has to be the better quarterback. But I feel like that is for a 1-game scenario, and maybe again not a trade, but if it was a fantasy draft or like you had a pickup football match, maybe if you're really if you're locked in and you're really gonna go for the move, like maybe you do take Darnold over Stafford. I don't know, but I feel like you probably take Stafford over Darnold. If it's just baseline, team captains, who do you want, Stafford or Darnold? You're probably going to end up taking Stafford. So, I don't know if that discounts it a little bit. And Puka did miss some games. Did he miss a game maybe as well? So he might, he's at 1639. So I don't know if that per game is a little bit more and if that number is a little bit impressive. But and they similar situation where I don't even know who the Rams number 2 is. I guess Devontae Adams. So yeah, there we go, right there, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is still productive. Hey, I'm just discounting Devontae Adams like that. I mean, that goes to show you, again how dominant Puka is. He is right up there. So again, it's if we have to give credit to a quarter, if we're just giving giving some love to some of the other different spots in the league, like. I guess we can't have all receivers on it as well too. So we got to take one from each. It is what it is. But JSN, just as basic as the leader, I guess, in receiving yards for us, is, and again, it's not just that, but that's where he sits at for the total for the season. Though James Cook at 1,600 rush yards. Hey, they were talking, of course, over the course of that Colts game about how Jonathan Taylor's lost his rush title for the year. It is what it is. But, yeah, I didn't realize that James Cook was having that crazy of a season. But for per game. So, yeah, Puka is 109 per game. JSN is 105. Hey, Puka 70. They have him credited for leading the league in first downs. But JSN does actually have physically, more. Just per game, I guess. He's got 75 first downs in 15 games compared to 79 for Jason. So, yeah, again, Puka, just in terms of play on the field, you got to give him credit. JSN, 10 touchdowns to 9 for Puka. I think there's other reasons why maybe we're not, sitting up here like really thrilled about putting Puka on the MVP list. It is what it is. I think it takes a lot for us to be able to overlook JSN being an Ohio State alum for us to be able to put him on the MVP ballot. And make no mistake, Puka's checking all those boxes with some of the stuff he's been doing. But both of them 119 receptions on the year, and I guess JSN more targets, but again per game, pretty crazy for Puka. Where's he at targets per game right now? 10 per game. Oh, Chase is at 11, but he's also at 15 a game as well, too. And Trey McBride, the 10 target per game group this year. Chase, Puka, and Trey McBride. And then 9 or more, you've got Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, and JSN. So, again, obviously, you don't have to have us explain to you what it needs to, what you need to win the MVP. But, obviously Rashid Rice, 8 games played. Chris Olave, Amon-Ra. Could you say Amon-Ra? I guess they have Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. They've got some more weapons. I don't know if Amon-Ra is 100%, 98.5% as valuable to the Lions as Seattle is. And, his consistency as well, too. Jamison Williams, if you had to choose a receiver, just the ability for Amon-Ra to just consistently get first downs. You're probably going to lean toward that at the end of the day, though. Again, Jamison Williams is obviously pretty crazy, and Chase, is again obviously right up there with all these guys for value in the league at receiver. Just Cincinnati, the record, they're not in contention with some of these other teams. Same with Arizona. So I guess again, Trey McBride, shout out. We got to give him his credit. 73 yards a game though. A little bit farther down there at that point. In Chase as well too this year. I guess 11 targets. 7.8 receptions, 87 yards. So a little bit lower. I guess that's 4th in the league. So shout out. It's nobody in the 90-yard group. You got Puka at 109, JSN 105, and then Pickens at 88, CeeDee Lamb at 82. And then, I guess in between both those guys, like we were saying, Jamar Chase at 87 yards per game. So, a lot of stats there, just ripping through them. But, I think the long way around it is that I think that JSN would be one of our 3. If you had to pick a top 3 MVP for the season, JSN is our number 2. I don't know who our number 1 and our number 3 is, but I guess we can't vote a receiver number 1. So, it would he has to be our number 2 at this point. So maybe we do just vote Myles Garrett number 1 and let the rest of the voters take care of it. We have to just, consider the fact that it's going to be the average. And shout out to Brooklyn as well too in the Michael Porter Jr. revenge game. They pulled away in the 3rd quarter as Jamal Murray gets a little layup here, cuts it to 15. Is it the braids, Chad? Jamal Murray? Are we going to get braided Murray and Jokic when he's back? Is that going to be or how many House of Highlights posts are we going to get? Like Jamal Murray since the braids is so many points per game. You could definitely see it happening. The classic Michael Porter. See, I mean, if you're 50, I feel like if you just say picture Michael Porter Jr. taking a basket, there is like there's a couple different emotes that he has. He can definitely off the ball, like run around a screen or from the corner up to the wing and that catch and shoot off movement type of 3. But that like long kind of lanky dramatic step back that he takes, and he always does like going from was he going like left to right with that step back as well too. So a lot of course, and we have to double check Michael Porter Jr. Is he right-handed? He might be left-handed. I don't know. But I guess we'll make no mistake. He's gonna take another basket soon. It is what it is. He's got the ball right now. He's dribbling to his left. It was a little bit of a weird hook shot, so that might have been that could have been a left-handed shot with his right hand. I'm not sure. He could still be left-handed. I guess we can't really tell from that attempt. We'll have to wait for the next possession when he takes the next shot. It is what it is. But he does love. Oh yeah, there we go. We get a little replay. Because I was gonna say, I feel like I imagine him like twisting around on that step back, which does make it a little bit more difficult for right-handed shooters. Again, if you're going left-handed dribble to the left and then step back, so you're planting your right foot, step back to the left. Of course, you don't have to align as much as it's kind of already happening with the way that you're dribbling, versus having to like fully rotate the elbow, hip around and try to get aligned. But like Michael Porter Jr. doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's willing to risk it. 10 out of 10 difficulty, I guess, is perfect for him. So, you got to give him credit for. This can't be the first matchup, I imagine, for Denver versus Brooklyn on the season. But we're locked in. Just maybe it's the first time that it's been aligned with us being live, or it being aligned with the fact that none of the NFL games are really mattering as well too. I guess it really is that Ravens-Steelers game, just in terms of direct, of course, who's going to make or miss the playoffs. You got a division winner there. We had another one last night, of course, with Panthers-Bucks, and the Panthers losing. I still don't even know mathematically what's happening there, because I thought that the Falcons were winning in for a second, but now it's like if the Falcons win, the Panthers get in. So here, wait, let's double check. Did the Falcons win? Are the Panthers in the playoffs? Did our guy Bryce Young make the playoffs? Let's see. Where is the the Falcons score. This is actually exciting. Oh, they did win. So that means Bryce Young is in the playoffs. Hey, yo, we have to, I guess, chat, spoiler alert, we just thought of a new segment. We have to adopt a favorite playoff team. Now that the Colts are not going to be in it. So I don't know what inspired that all of a sudden and, what who that team's going to be. But stay tuned. Some big surprises happening there. So, shout out to, like we said, JSN for being our number 2. Not our number 1 that we want to give the MVP to, but we can't give him the MVP. It is what it is. So, I guess Myles Garrett's our number 3. We still have to figure out our number 3 MVP vote is actually going to win the MVP, but we have to figure out who our number 1 is. So, yeah, he got the sack today. I think he just had the 1, so he's at 23, just the 1. Hey, yo, I guess he had the 1 plus the 22 over the rest of the season. I guess this is also that 17 game. There is a little bit of that into there as well too, because of course, going back into the day, Strahan, I guess, Strahan also has the fact that Brett Favre, gave himself up on the last sack. So is this karma for that at the end of the day? The league institutes another game, so we can't really argue, whether or not Strahan, had some things. Obviously you're going to have some things go your way if you're breaking the record like that. I know that Gastineau was close. Hey, yo, I think we've all seen the video. But does that mean he was at 22? Or was that on the way to breaking the record and then maybe there was a sack or two after that? I don't remember. So we'll pull up the leaderboard here. And then TJ Watt tied him as well. So I imagine that would have been in a 17-game season. But I guess we can double check it all here. And where does Deacon Jones fall on the list? Because I know he would be, I think, the number 1 guy for a career if it was calculated for his time. But I don't know if it was for a season. If it was more just the consistency throughout the course of his career. But not times a quarterbacks is sacked. We need a actual players sack here. Playoff seasons? Oh, chat. Hey, yo. We just want simple single season sack leaders. If we're going, I guess, beforehand. So Al Baker, chat, nobody's going to mention Al Baker. So it says on Pro Football Reference, I guess here, we gotta go to the background screen here. This is an important piece of research that we have to do. This is not Rem and Sam debunk the Myles Garrett sack record. He is clearly tied with Al Baker. That is a shout out to Al Baker. There's no denying that. But again, there's no denying the fact that he's tied with Al Baker. I guess there is denying the fact because it's the unofficial sacks leader. And maybe it's the Wilt Chamberlain situation where we don't have can we go back and watch the tape and account for all of them? I don't know. But yeah, if you see here, since 1982 is when they officially started measuring that number as a stat. So, again, to bring his name back up, our guy Deacon Jones, let's see here. What was his career listed at? 61 to 74. So he'll, I guess, be in the unofficial leaders if he does have the season. But we got to pay respect to Deacon Jones because he's got to be on one of our just random all-time team type of situations. But he was insane dominance. I mean, first team All-Pro 5 years in a row, second in MVP voting in 1967, and 21 and a half sacks in 1964 as well too, and was second team All-Pro that year. So I hate to continue wandering farther and farther away from what we originally were looking at, but now we have to go look at the 1964 first team All-Pros to see why Deacon Jones is on second team. Of course, Unitas MVP of the league, who's to doubt it? Jim Brown and Johnny Unitas, chat. I mean, and Deacon Jones all in the league at the same time. Was the league more stacked in 1964 than it is now? Mike Ditka was in the league as well too. Hey, yo, shout out. But first team All-Pro defensive lineman is what we're trying to find here. I guess where's the AP first team? They don't have the lineman for the defense. Oh, wait, yeah, they do. They're up here. I guess they don't have 22 starters on offense. That would make sense. Joe Fortunato is we got a corner. Ray Nitschke, middle linebacker. Hey, yo, Mike Tingelhoff is the center. We got some other crazy names all the way around here. Where's our Willie Davis? We've got him as the left edge rusher. So wait, we got to find the right edge rusher. Does that have the right defensive tackle Henry Jordan? So a lot of respect being paid to the Packers team. I imagine that they were pretty dominant that year. It is what it is. But a lot of defensive linemen being represented. Frank Clark from Dallas, left end. Is that? That's offense. Hey yo, I think he's a tight end. 65 receptions, 973 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Maybe just a straight up receiver as well too. I guess who's to say? Back then, Gino Marchetti from the Colts, 11.5 sacks. Also making and then Bob Lilly from the Cowboys. Okay, so is that your line? Gino Marchetti, Bob Lilly, Willie Davis, and Henry Jordan. I guess no disrespect to Henry Jordan, but we can't have Deacon Jones on this first team All-Pro in 1964 with 22 sacks. The Packers were 8-5, 8-5-1. Hey, yo, they weren't even good. Their defense was is that second worst or second best at 17.5 points a game? I think it's second best. It is what it is. We're trying to make the case, but yeah, okay. So their defense was good, So it's gonna get the notoriety, and their offense was 5th, and somehow they were 8-5-1. The math is not mathing, and they were the 2nd overall team in simple rating system. But shout out Cleveland, 1964 champs, the good old days, chat, for I guess championship, them winning championships. Anyways, it is what it is there. But so shout out to I guess Al Baker is what we were looking at. Ayo, I knew we were gonna forget the original starting point there. We had him though at, was it 19? Maybe it was the year before. Was it 63? Was it the 70s? We had him at 23 sacks as well. So nobody else was tying that to potentially make the case. 78 for Detroit. And then Strahan 22.5 2001, TJ Watt 22.5 2021, and then Jared Allen 22 in 2011. Gastineau 22 in 1984. Houston and Deacon Jones twice in 68 and 64. So Houston did tie as well in 2014. That would have been tied for the most. I remember him getting up there close to the record, but I didn't remember him and Jared Allen actually physically tying the all-time sack record. Dolman 21, Reggie White 21, Aaron Donald in 2018 20.5. Of course, from the defensive tackle spot that might be, I guess not a hot take to say that Aaron Donald could have had the best season of any of these guys, but 2000, I guess Gastineau, did they have him listed as some tackle? He might have had some tackle minutes in there. Let's double check. They have him kind of listed as a defensive end throughout. So, I think he was definitely playing that role well. But, I think could arguably be the most impressive. I guess maybe Reggie White in Philly in 87. Could he have been playing some interior rush there as well? 86, they've got him playing tackle. And then I guess maybe moving him to the edge is the start of the run. 18 sacks from some tackle minutes in 86 that year as well. But, shout out to Myles Garrett. And, we've been saying it before about him needing to be traded, him needing to be playing in some playoff situations because, he is probably, no disrespect to anybody on the top of the single season leaderboard, but it doesn't necessarily correlate 100% to the all-time list. There is that longevity and consistency that, for every spot in the NFL, everything in sports is that more so than just what you were able to achieve in great seasons. But, of course, scoring records and stuff. Hey, there are other records that the receiving record, like Calvin Johnson, and not say that, Strahan and having the receiving record is, or the sack record. It's not crazy. But I think that Myles Garrett is probably a better pass rusher than Strahan. And I guess it's not disrespectful, again, to any of these guys to say that Myles Garrett is the best pass rusher of anybody on this list, because not anybody on this list, just till we get to Deacon Jones, essentially. So if we had to pick a guy between Al Baker, Michael Strahan, TJ Watt, Jared Allen, Myles Garrett, Mark Gastineau, and Justin Houston, call us crazy. And, again, all those guys have incredible cases. There's definitely immediate draft pick remorse when you make the selection. But not really, because Myles Garrett is the only one that went number 1 overall for these guys as well, too. What was Strahan's draft pick? So, not to underestimate him there. But second round, 40th, and, again, that's obviously not going to automatically qualify him for the, just because Myles Garrett went number 1 in his draft, now he's immediately the number 1 defensive lineman of all time. Obviously not. But it does prove that, again, just when he's been playing at his best at any level, he has been an extra special level of football talent. So I do think that, from an all-time standpoint, and it does get maybe into just, again, what are the guys that I just want to have on a team that I'm building? Who are the guys that I like from an all-time standpoint? And, Lawrence Taylor is obviously that's the name that you're going to hold up there as the number 1 defensive lineman. So we're not, again, it was just of the names that I read there. I wouldn't even necessarily take Myles Garrett over, like we said, Reggie White. I would very confidently draft Reggie White from an all-time standpoint, and just because I would want to have Reggie White on my team. That's not even crazy to say. It would be tough, J.J. Watt versus Myles Garrett. I think I'd probably take Myles Garrett over J.J. Watt. All due respect to Myles Garrett. I guess this is interesting. This is really interesting now that I think about it. And, again, if I say that I'm going to take Deacon Jones over Myles Garrett, what do I really know about Deacon? I just know his name. I got a couple of old football cards that have been handed down over time, so maybe that's a part of it. I think Alan Page, the respect that we have for Alan Page, is also worked into that as well. Fortunately, we were able to get some of those high-level football cards, I guess, of some of the right names, But I would. There's still a handful of guys, like I'm saying, but I guess maybe it's not too many. Like, if you switched out Von Miller, I guess the classic. But if you switched out Von Miller for Myles Garrett on that 2015 Broncos team, are you worse off? Again, you're talking about an all-time defense, an all-time result. So are you just do you want to mess with time? Like, hey, just from a football timeline standpoint, I don't know if you want to start tempting, if you want to start messing with the Broncos fans there. But just again, from what the expectations of the team could be, what the team could accomplish, I don't think you're worse off having Myles Garrett on that defensive line over Von Miller. Though Von Miller is a name that we probably do have to hold in a little bit of a higher regard. We watched him play as well too, so there is that bias. But for him being the leader of a defense that was able to have just that level of success was pretty crazy. I mean, you also see his name here in the all-time list as well too, with DeMarcus Ware. Both those guys being teammates at that same time is obviously pretty crazy. But so wait, let's see here. We've got Garrett is definitely, like we said, Deacon Jones, probably Reggie White, Donald. I still would probably take Donald. Taylor, yeah, we're taking Lawrence Taylor over Myles Garrett. It is what it is. Well, just for the take's sake of it, again, I guess we're giving Von Miller the sort of number 1 status. You've got DeMarcus Ware with his sort of number 1 production years a little bit before that in Dallas. I guess Von Miller was objectively the better pass rusher at the time. It's not a hot take to say, but at the peak of their powers, again, DeMarcus Ware, it's all pretty close. Our guys, Freeney and Mathis, we got Mathis here at 19.5 in 2013. That's pretty tough, but Freeney, Chad, again, you can't, just from a nostalgia standpoint, like I loved rooting for Dwight Freeney. So now now I get it. See, I get it. I loved rooting for him. I don't want to necessarily take away that fandom. But I'm just talking, Daryl Morey, Sam Presti. We got to just put the rational, the logistical, crunch the numbers, see what the robot football brain, the AI football brain, and just try to, pause. I guess AI football brain might sound a little bit different, but if we're just trying to think as quote unquote rationally as possible, and just try to build just genuinely the most ultimate best team ever, Dwight Freeney versus Myles Garrett is crazy. That's a crazy one. And I don't know if could Myles Garrett not get in the lab and work on the spin move? That's the thing. I would assume that Freeney has a little bit more quickness in that spin move, but it's just because that's what he was, really mastering at the end of the day. I don't know if Myles Garrett was committing to that. He could probably get pretty close. So, oh man, I don't know. We might have to put Freedy in the list. That's another biased one. It is what it is. Do we highlight Deacon Jones' name again? For sure. I think we do. Shaq Barrett, 19.5 in 2019. Tim Harris in 1989, 19.5 as well. Aldon Smith, 2012. Hey, yo, chat. Talk about guys just, have at the peak of their powers. Bruce Smith versus Myles Garrett is crazy as well, too. I'd have to definitely go watch more Bruce Smith highlights, that's for sure. And, it wouldn't be too far off. We're not saying that Myles Garrett is like 20 spots higher on the Bruce Smith's not the 20th best pass rusher of all time, so that'd be impossible. 2-time defensive player of the year, 8-time All-Pro, and then just the long, like we're saying, the longevity of the career. 10 sacks, double-digit sacks as a 37-year-old. 9 sacks at 39 is pretty crazy. I don't know where do we make the argument. I guess 2 15-sack seasons, so there is that. Again, kind of top-end talent, but, that's just like a lazy way to phrase it, But I was going to say, he was a crazy playoff producer as well, too. 3 sacks. I know McGinnis, I think, is all-time, but he might be number 2 in career playoff sacks. Is that something that is listed here? I don't know. Let's see. And then, obviously number 1 career-wise officially since 1982. As well, too. The only guy in the 200 sack club. So I don't want to be disrespectful and not say that we wouldn't, again, he's the all-time leader. So does he have to be just in the list over Myles Garrett? But if I'm being genuinely honest with myself, I think I would take Myles Garrett. Here, let's go double check just like we're saying, the strengths of some of the seasons. And again, Myles Garrett at this point in his career, like we've noted over the past couple of weeks, has had the most sacks of anybody up until this point in his career. So, again, if we're making it that argument, then, he might just win that pretty easily based on that stat. If we're just, again, talking sort of the football talent and then you get the full scope of the career, what does that look like? Of course, it becomes, maybe a little bit of a different argument. Hey, pause. Whoa. Becomes a little bit more of a different argument. But, so I guess 2 16s, 14-14. And then 13.5, 10. So double digits every year since his rookie year is obviously, again, equaling that consistency and just a tad bit higher on the like to say the total sack number over the course. And I guess both of those were in you got a 17 game season. He did have a 16 in. And you would also have to consider the focus of him as well too in that Cleveland defense. Maybe put him in some of those Buffalo defenses, like we're saying. Is he worse off? I don't know. I guess what are we doing here? Hey, let's just say Bruce Smith's better than Myles Garrett. I mean, we can collect the names at the end and then see what we've got going on there. We did say we have to credit Von Miller as well too, so I imagine 18.5. Yeah, the first time his name has probably popped up here. Jason Taylor's kind of a sneaky one, like we've said before, just kind of all names list. We could have had Jason Taylor make our 21st century lineup. That could have been pretty fun. But I think Myles Garrett over Jason Taylor. I don't know. Let's double check. Jason Taylor's in the Hall of Fame, so we got to give him credit as well too. 6 Pro Bowls, I guess 3-time All-Pro. 2006 AP Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, 18.5. Had some 8.5 sack season. 2016, 9.5. We're just reading off box scores as well too. So we're reducing it down to, some basic stuff at the end of the day. But yeah, I think maybe Garrett over Taylor by a smidge. Though, make no mistake, I'm gonna find. We should just find this right now. Should we find what Jason Taylor game should we watch? Hey, I don't know if I mentioned this already or not. Do we have to keep you guys updated on our what games we're throwing on in our free time? I don't know. But I was randomly throwing on the 1999-2000 Sugar Bowl. Was it the Sugar Bowl? It was the Virginia Tech Miami National Championship game. So we were watching Mike Vick versus Miami. So maybe we go Jason Taylor college. Where did he play? Oh, played at Akron. So I don't know. No disrespect, but maybe, not quite the same crazy bowl game. And, the Miami career as well, too. Not to say that there wouldn't be crazy matchups in there, crazy performances, but, I don't know what we got for playoffs here. No playoff sacks in 17 games played is pretty interesting, but it's something worth noting anyways. And some 2000s there, definitely at the peak of his powers as well too. Not trying to call him out, but I guess if we were gonna find his best game, do we just go back and watch his best game? A bunch of 3-sack games. Ayo, pause. There's a 33-6 win against Buffalo, a 23-17 win against Oakland in 2002. Would that have been Gannon? Would that have been Rich Gannon? That might be a fun one to Rich Gannon versus, I don't know, is Pennington 02? Is that too soon? I don't know. San Francisco 2004? Is that, who's the guy on NFL Network? What, that was the head coach maybe at the time? And then Oakland again in 05, 31-21. Miami versus the Jets in 05, 24-20. Yeah, let's go to this San Francisco game and see what we've got going on here. I guess we don't mind spoiling. I like to know that I'm watching a good game. I want to see high-level performances out there. A.J. Feely is the quarterback, 17 for 33, 159, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Tim Rattay is the San Francisco quarterback. Ooh, this is a bit of a deep cut, chat. It is what it is. I don't know, not great on the rushing stats as well. I don't know where the scoring is happening in this game. Is there fun receivers? Jason Taylor. Maybe we're going to pull up a Pro Bowl and watch Jason Taylor in the Pro Bowl. Might end up we have it. Oh, they do have Pat Surtain, though. They do have this Pat Surtain Sr. And Will Poole, is that Jordan Poole? I don't know, but maybe there's some fun guys on defense. Wes Welker, 2004, is he a young Wes Welker returning kicks? I guess is a name that we're familiar with at this point. So Chris Chambers, we had a football card. We had Chris Chambers football card in there as well too. 5 for 64 and a touchdown. Pretty consistent receiver over the course of his career. There was some 1,000-yard productions in there for Chris Chambers. Made a Pro Bowl. Let's see, 1,118 yards in 2005. 11 touchdowns. So 963, 11 touchdowns in 2003. Yeah, look at that. Start his career. First, had an 8-year run. Chris Chambers had an 8-year run where he was a pretty productive guy. And even in 2009, he was 730 yards, 5 touchdowns. 92 targets, 45 catches. Say 92 targets is going to make you valuable in fantasy. I'm telling you, 92 points right there. Lock it in PPR. You'll take that. So, and especially the double-digit touchdown years, led the league in yards per targets. Hey, Chris Chambers, sneaky underrated. Christopher J. Chambers. Put some respect on his name, chat. It is what it is. But yeah, all that being said, I think the tie went to Bruce Smith in the past, so we'll give the tie this time to Myles Garrett. I guess no disrespect to Jason Taylor. It is what it is. I did see our guy Alan Page, so we'll say Alan Page over Myles Garrett. And Jack Youngblood's another one as well too. The Rams defensive line and the Vikings defensive line and the Steelers defensive line, of course, is iconic as well. Oh, the Bears. Richard Dent, he won a Super Bowl MVP, so he's going to be in that Von Miller conversation as well. Yeah, Jack Youngblood, 7 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pros. So here, let's go to the stat head, actually. We should be checking it out. Let's check All-Pro accomplishments for the defensive lineman guys and see what we have there and where Myles Garrett might compare. Because that might be a better way to look than just the all-time individual single season records. And of course, we're going to get some duplicates there as well too. This will be a cleaner way to filter it all out. And I do value both types of defensive linemen as well too. Hey, not a hot take, but I'm not necessarily going to in terms of the conversation, narrow it down to tackles versus defensive end. If a tackle, and Aaron Donald's a part of that as well too. But it's like if a tackle is going to be the one that you'd rather have, then just say that it's the tackle as well. Warren Sapp. Ooh, that's where we start get biased. We're saying we like the defensive tackles, and he made our all-time team as well too. That's right. We had Richard Seymour on our all-time team for the 21st century, anyways, battling in the 21st century all-time game that we did the other live stream. So he would be another name that would be in the mix as well too for that. John Randall. Hey, John Randall versus Myles Garrett. Okay, this is a good way to do it. So Myles Garrett, again, is at 4. Obviously a lot of these guys have maybe played a couple more seasons as well, too, than Myles Garrett has. So what do we got? Games played. Wait, where was our guy at? 133 games played. So Arnie Weinmeister made 4 All-Pro teams in 46 games played. He might be the sleeper here at this point. But let's see where that stacks up, actually, in games played. Is it the lowest? Okay, not quite the lowest. Jervon Kearse, in a decade-long career, played 133. Jim Dunaway. Hey, do we have to say shout out to Faye Dunaway? I'm not sure what the connection is there, but that's what it made us think of. JPP, Albert Hainsworth, another football card guy. Shout out Albert Hainsworth. I don't know if he's in the conversation, but definitely fun. Quinnen Williams. So, in terms of games played, I don't know if there's anybody below 133 that you would maybe even look at. And I guess where's Micah Parsons fall at? Do we have to throw in do we have to throw an outside linebacker? Because I don't know if we're going to remember Von Miller as well, too. So let's do that real quick and see if that doesn't cause too much chaos in the names that we put in. But Von Miller, he's played more games as well, so I imagine that he would be he'd be good to go for that. Let's see. So wait, 133, yeah, Myles Garrett. Let's see if we have some new names added in here as well too. Where is I guess we have it sorted by games played. So wait, let's go back to All Pro real quick and find Von Miller. Where's Von Miller? So less All Pros than Shaq Leonard. We got Shaq Leonard as an outside linebacker. 3 All-Pros. Shout out. You forget. It is what it is. His name's got to be considered as well. James Harrison. Ooh. So we got Micah Parsons' name on the board. Where is Von Miller? Okay, we've clearly just missed him now at this point. It is what it is. We have to go alphabetical now with the search. It's the only way. Hopefully we can find the right letter. McGraw? McMichael, Miller, Vaughn. Here we go. Shout out. I guess 2 All-Pros for Von Miller. So maybe some more second teams in the mix here, because it's going to include only first team versus like All-NBA. If it says a guy makes 6 All-NBA teams, he may make 3 first team, or, like 3 seconds and 3 thirds. He may never even have made first team. Third team All-NBA? Whoa. Third team All-NBA is a different list. That is for sure. But, so, you see him in the mix every year, but a handful of second team, 4 second team All-Pros as well too. So we could double check and see if there's a way, I guess, to include that, cause even more chaos in the stats. But 130 games played. I guess we could have paid more attention. We were looking around that part of the list. Pretty close to Garrett there. So again, legacy's kind of right on par. Oh, Julius Peppers. Whoa. He was another guy that we really wanted to have on our all-time team. Peppers over Myles Garrett. Okay, chat, we're going to restart the list. It is what it is. Lock in. But if you like football, maybe you like listing off defensive ends and defensive linemen. I'm not sure. Chris Dolman. There's going to be guys that we're going to leave out. But, hey, that's part of it, right, chat? Like, let us know who the most insane guy that we didn't say over Myles Garrett was. Carl Eller as well. So I would say maybe Peppers over Myles Garrett is crazy. I'm not sure, but I would say Peppers. I guess sort it by games played. Let's go back to All Pro and actually figure this out. So yeah, Aaron Donald. Shout out to Gino Marchetti. I don't want to disrespect anybody from the 50s and 60s. Bob Lilly, Junior Seau. Like we said, we got some outside linebackers in the mix. John Randall and T.J. Watt. I'm just gonna take John Randall's name for now and we'll see. Not to say that the list can be paused as long as it needs to be, I guess, but I don't know. It seems like Randall, the career over Myles Garrett's career at this point, is the right move. Even though, again, if we're ranking peak of the powers, pause, it is a little bit of a different conversation. Alan Page, Warren Sapp also leading a Super Bowl team. The Super Bowl thing, and that's what we're saying about Myles Garrett. Of course, if we're giving credit to quarterbacks, and I just don't understand why the other guys can't get credit for that as well too. Obviously, not to say that Warren Sapp and some of these guys don't, but not to say that the extra stats that Myles Garrett could accumulate over a guy like Warren Sapp. We still got to consider his name, even still. So at this point, though, again, if we're just talking about guys that have at this, over the course of their careers have made multiple All-Pros, 24, he's top 25, top 30 in that range. So of the 4 or more All-Pros, I think that would generally be the list. Derek Brooks, maybe it's a little bit of a difference going on there. Junior Seau versus Myles Garrett. Art Donovan, another Colts legend that we're going to be leaving off the list. Chris Jones, 3 All-Pros. And, of course, like we're saying, giving credit to Super Bowl guys, anchoring a Super Bowl team defensively for Kansas City. You could argue that for the regular season stretches there was some moments that their defense was the better unit. But Mahomes has such a crazy playoff run in their later Super Bowl runs that, obviously it still ends up being the Mahomes thing at the end of the day. And it's really close. Maybe again, if I'm just being biased and taking guys that I want to cheer for on a team, or, just like, let me build a team, like, the players that I think are cool, like Chris Jones might be in the list. But I guess I don't know how the press conferences have affected that opinion or not, because there's the one where he doesn't know if they're eliminated from the playoffs, and it's like, that's not a good look. And then there's another one where he's like, after they're eliminated, and he's like, oh man, I just got to be better on that play. And it's like him just being like super non-serious about his apology. And it's actually like kind of funny, but it's also like, but his delivery on it is, again, it's pretty perfect. Khalil Mack and TJ Watt, maybe there's moments directly playing these guys where you would have said, if we go back and look at the conversation, like that stuff does matter. And TJ Watt, again, injuries, and he's at 104, so he's obviously had some moments where he hasn't been able to be out there as much. But were they same draft class, 2017, for both of them? And then we did mention our guy Dwight Freeney. Okay, it is a good thing we found Julius Pepper's name then there as well too. So Pepper is definitely in the mix as well too. Cortez Kennedy is another guy that for some reason I just want to have on the team. Shout out. Let's see. Let's go back and double check the career of Cortez Kennedy. Are we gonna end up watching an old Seahawks game? Where did he end up? College, Mississippi Northwest Community College. Rest in peace. But the 3 All-Pros, 8 Pro Bowls, 1992 AP Defensive Player of the Year. So he was 14.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position that year. And that was his only double-digit number season. But again, that tackle spot is not statistically a spot that you would even put up that type of production. I would say, honestly, for the 90s, him being that 6.5 consistently plus 8 again in 1996, I guess he's second-team All-Pro this year. So was Warren Sapp then, if we're mentioning him, starting to emerge? I guess I almost said Bruce Lee. Bruce Smith, Defensive Player of the Year overall. But for the tackle, Bryant Young from San Francisco with 11.5 that year. And, Kevin Green, Hall of Famer. He's a fun name to consider as well, too. Left tackle, that's offense. Willie Roaf, shout out. Left defensive tackle, or do we need right defensive tackle? I don't know why it has... right defensive tackle. Our guy John Randall. Okay, so Randall and who was the other guy? Bryant Young. Definitely, I guess, deserving of the spot. But, yeah, do we say Cortez Kennedy, chat? Shout out. Is another guy to be considered as well, too. John Abraham, he made our 21st century team. So maybe Myles Garrett. Did Myles Garrett make our... He might have been on the team that we were facing. I don't remember. We'll have to go back and double check the matchup. And then Von Miller. like we said. Chris Jenkins, the OG, shout out. LC Greenwood, ooh, chat. Like we said, we missed some of these Steelers guys. It is what it is. Is LC Greenwood the one? I don't know what makes me want to gravitate toward LC Greenwood over some of the other names, but screw it. LC Greenwood's the guy that we're going to take to, I guess, represent the Steelers defense from that time. Here, let's go back and see who did we miss from the Steelers. What names am I forgetting? Bob Lilly was a menace as well, too. Obviously, don't forget about Bob Lilly. We got to definitely pay respects. Chuck Howley, isn't he won 5 Super Bowls, right? You see the guy that won the 5 Super Bowls? One of those defensive linemen won a couple. Dallas, but he won, did he win all 5 with Dallas? I don't think so. Who was the guy that won? I thought it was a Dallas San Francisco split. Obviously Dion, pause. Ayo. But for Pittsburgh, Cameron Hayward. Ayo. Shout out. Is Cameron Hayward the all-time leader for Pittsburgh? Oh, wait a second. We got Jack Ham up here as well. So yeah, Jack Ham is one of those guys from Iron Curtain days. Joe Green. Oh, that's the other guy I'm thinking of. Mean Joe Green versus Myles Garrett. I don't know. It was a different time, chat. It was a different time. We might have to take Mean Joe Green. It is what it is. Literally, his nickname was Mean. I mean, Mean Myles Garrett, it does work, but I don't know if it's just, it just hasn't been something that people have felt the need to call him. We're not calling him out for it. I'm just saying. And, we're not calling out Mean Joe Green. It's just, that's the level of football player that he was at. That is how we defined him. Goodfellas, if it's just like, okay, he's Mean Joe Green, it is like, okay, that guy is not to be messed with. Ted Hendricks, another fun one. So I know we could definitely sit here and just list off every, I guess, defensive lineman that has ever played, which we're pretty close to accomplishing at this point. We're crossing off quite a chunk of them. Oh, Chris Dolman as well, too. We mentioned him earlier. Kevin Green, LC Greenwood. Oh, Haley, that's the guy. Charles Haley has the 5 Super Bowls between Dallas and San Francisco. So I guess we could include both LC Greenwood and Mean Joe Green on the list. It could be why, that defense was so good from back in the day. Do we actually have Mean Joe Green's name? And do we have to get Art Donovan and Gino Marchetti? I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. They're just in contention. Shout out. So here, let's see how many names. What's this down to? And I guess, okay, now we have to actually be serious. It is what it is. Shout out to Gino Marchetti. But I mean, seven Pro Bowls. He doesn't have a case, and sacks not being the same thing as well too. Though was Art Donovan the better player? Art Donovan might have been the better player. I'm not sure. We have to go back and watch the highlight film, the old reels, and see what's going on there. So is this a good list here? I think this is this. Oh, we also have. I guess, hey, screw it. We'll keep Chris Jones in the mix. We've got maybe an outlier, but just barely. It's not too far off. Pause. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we know for a fact that Myles Garrett's in the top 13 all time of history, because this is fact, right? Ayo. So we know for a fact that Myles Garrett is in the top 13 all time. Dwight Freeney, I guess Mathis also has to be in the mix. They're both pretty close. But if we had to have a representative, okay, so Myles Garrett's in the top 14 all time. I guess we just swapped out Gino Marchetti and Art Donovan for Freeney and Mathis. We just went even more biased with it and chose the guys with lesser All-Pros, but from our era. It is what it is. So to complete the bias top, it's fact that he is, I guess, top 14 in this bias list. It is what it is. Bias for the players that we like. But hey, I feel like it's not too far off. So again, I don't know what the correct ranking is quite for these guys. I might end up taking Alan Page number 1 at the end of the day. Again, I don't really even have. I've probably watched like 35 minutes of Alan Page YouTube's highlights in my entire life, but maybe that's more than some. And we can definitely correct that pretty easily. So shout out. Something to keep in mind. And the Jason Taylor one is haunting me for some reason as well. I don't know. There's going to be a couple names that were missing, but and now I do feel like I have to go back. Joe Green's great, but LC Greenwood, chat, it is what it is. Sometimes you're just like, just a player. That's just a dude. shout out to LC Green when it is. I guess that's just a dude. It is what it is. Julius Peppers. I mean, Peppers versus Myles Garrett's crazy. Peppers in the all-time rankings. You got to give him his credit. Donald, again, Donald might be the number one at the end of the day for just, modern day Alan Page, basically. Both those guys in the mix. But this is the list, with the exception of maybe Dwight Freeney. Shout out to Dwight Freeney. And I guess Von Miller, maybe Chris Jones as well, too. So maybe Myles Garrett is in the top 10. I guess he is probably the top 10 all time for defensive linemen. He just needs those playoff moments. He needs a playoff moment. He needs that legacy type thing to happen. And, maybe Shedeur Sanders will be able to get him there, Chad. Maybe Shedeur Sanders will be the one. I don't know. But, yeah, shout out. So our MVP ballot is so far Myles Garrett and Jackson Smith-Njigba. It is what it is. And Joe Thuney. We forgot all about Joe Thuney. Maybe he's the last one. Oh, the Bears are down 13-0 right now, so probably not. But brutal momentum, pause buster potentially for the Bears if they were to go into the playoffs. Maybe a little, throw them off the scent game. I don't know. So I guess up next, we'll see if Joe Thuney's able to keep his spot on the MVP ballot. How many guys will lose their MVP ballot spot to Drake May? First, it was Matt Stafford. Myles Garrett can't win any games. Joe Thuney's down 13-0. So we got to keep going through the list. Drake May can't win an MVP in year 2, chat. And we'll stop him right after this. All right, we are back, and we might have to call this next couple of minutes Rem and Sam Plus. We're gonna have to we tread lightly. This is our inner thoughts as a sports fan. We don't really mean any of this seriously. You know, I hate to say for like for what this is, it's just watch us work, but you know, we don't want just a tough pivot. Coming out of the break, I guess we should say that we had to switch up the NBA game because shout out to Brooklyn, Denver. I guess Michael Porter Jr. Not why this is Rem and Sam Plus, but he did complete the revenge game. The revenge game against Denver, and they got the win there. But we switched it over to Miami versus New Orleans as the next background game. Unfortunately, the league pass restrictions. We can't tap into. We can't watch Minnesota here. We have to find different paths, different avenues. But because, we were watching Miami, and we have been such big fans of Norm Powell this year, I did have a thought. And, everybody is trying to figure out what the San Antonio Spurs are going to do next. And what is the next big piece they need to add to the team? Who is the superstar? Hey, if Giannis is the move that we're going to make and the trade is fair all the way around, hey, we're right there for it. We're all in support, or whatever, big blockbuster move that, again, fair price is a fair price for anybody. Like, what are you going to tell a fan? Hey, you made a good trade for a better player. They're probably going to be like, okay, well, I guess, hey, it is what it is. But, an underrated right now for guys in the league, like we're saying, Norm Powell is cooking, chat. Norm Powell is cooking. So I hesitate to mention names about who we could potentially give up in a Norm Powell deal. 1-year contract. Chat, again, this is Rem and Sam Plus. I'm just throwing around numbers. We're throwing around contracts. I don't run a team. This doesn't reflect my fandom as what this team should be and what moves should be made. I'm just seeing what contracts work. The second aprons, the first aprons these days, it makes it a whole new landscape for navigating the trade market. So we just have to have reps, and we have to exercise reps, and we don't even necessarily mean any of these trades that we throw out half the time. It is, and man, if we take Tyler Hero back as well too, Norm Powell and Tyler Hero, 2 guards, probably not what we're looking for. Imagine, I don't think we could get Norm Powell and Wiggins. Would probably start moving too many salaries around at this point. How would they? I guess would the Hero move be that we need to give Kasparonis more minutes type of trade? I don't know. I guess Khalil Ware would be a guy that, obviously we would try to get him next to Wembanyama as well too. That would be a fun talent to try to pair in there. Maybe with some of the names that we're throwing around, maybe there is enough value there. If they're not giving us picks back, it could be in the form of younger players. It would make the contracts a little bit more even, though. There might have to be another name. Fontecchio might have to be in this trade as well too. And then is there some picks in the mix? They've got their own pick this year in 26. There's a second round pick that OKC, the Knicks, or San Antonio hold swap rights to. No protections. No first in 27, but 28, 29, 30, they're good to go. So some extra seconds, but nothing really in the first. So like a 29, I mean, are you making this trade? What are you thinking with this trade? An unnamed player in Bam Adebayo and Hero and Jovic are going to be the core. You would still have to buy into some all-NBA upside as well, too. Not to say that it's not the case at all. It just seems like in the hierarchy of what this team would be, there might be other all-NBA guys potentially in the mix, not necessarily for this year. Maybe he would be the name that would be in the mix as well. See, there's no way you would do this trade. There's no way, because this would throw off the momentum of the team in such a major way. This would really, again, shake up even some future visions, I'm sure, of what they're having, of what this lineup can look like. And, there was some conversation about how many guards could you run out there with San Antonio. They just drafted a guard. They traded for a guard. They drafted a guard last year. There's obviously like, are you even going to be able to run lineups with all of your best players at the same time? And it's clear that with one, how good defensively Wemby is, obviously, and how much of a deterrent he is, that you can definitely get away with a lot. But also, again, with how good of defenders that Castle and Harper are as well too. Those guys are wing defenders. Those guys can go up against other wings and other, four. Like Castle can maybe even guard some fours as well too. Like, I'm not saying that, would Castle be the assignment for Kevin Durant, going into a game? But if Castle got switched on to Kevin Durant, or if it was fourth quarter and Castle's like, hey, guess what, guys? I'm taking Durant. I don't think that's like a Kyrie Irving taking Giannis situation. I actually think like, if Castle's, if this is where Castle is locking in, like this is him just going to that next level defensively. Like let's watch him just, become an all-time defender, I guess, and then we'll see how Durant goes to work there. Pause. But you can make with the two-way abilities of everybody on the roster, you can make obviously the lineup work with their most talented offensive players as well too. So, again, there's no way you would do this trade if you're looking at the screen. It is what it is. So it would have to be a much, Norm Powell on a 1-year contract. I guess it would have to be Miami thinking that the play-in is their upside, and if there's some sort of extra asset they can get for not bringing, if they're not going to necessarily like, hey, let's lock in Norm Powell to like a 4-year deal after this, and if he's going to be another 1 to 2 year guy, I mean, he could be a 1 to 2 year guy, of course, in Miami. But if he wants to, if they're not going to give him the highest number, then he's going to hit the market. And not to, again, bring up names as well, too. But there was, I saw one post that was crediting Zach Lowe was saying, so I guess I don't know if he said this on his show or not. We're gonna have to go back and rip through the last couple episodes. Like, what did he say about San Antonio? What did he say? But he was saying something about like Sohan and Olynyk and some picks for another asset. So the reason that, we started with the name that we did is because as much as I think you could have 3 guards in Wembanyama, I don't think you could have 4 guards in Wembanyama. I don't know if you could necessarily run, but again, I think Wemby could be a deterrent for a lot of the season. Like it would be a fine lineup in the regular season. I think maybe playoff minutes, if you were really counting that as your final 5. And I think the other thing for San Antonio is, do we sit here and say San Antonio thinks we can win the title with this exact lineup? But I guess we do. I guess we just have to admit it to ourselves. We think that there is the minor visions of winning a title, I guess. We should say the distant visions, maybe is a better way to phrase it. There is the distant visions of us winning the title. I guess, like we're saying, we don't necessarily expect us to win the title. It's just more on the table than we thought at the beginning of the year. We thought this year was going to be, again, that's the cleaner way to phrase it. The cleaner way to phrase it is this year we thought maybe would be more of a developmental year, taking that step forward to being a playoff contending team. But it's clear that, we're a title contending team. Are we going to win the title this year? Are we going to be in the Western Conference? Are we going to make the final? Like I'm saying, I don't know about all that, but we'll see once we get to the All-Star break how we're thinking as a fan, I guess. But, in terms of is this team competitive enough this year to win the title? I mean, they have been against the best teams. They're the number 2 seed in the Western Conference right now. So, again, could the Rockets get them in a playoff series in 7 games, 6, 7 games? That could be a brutal one. I was seeing some other stats as well, too, that Wemby has the best defensive field goal rating, against opponents. Like, has the lowest, holding opponents to the lowest defensive field goal rating. But Durant is number 2, and Amen Thompson is number 3. So the Rockets have that two-way ability, and obviously Durant offensively as well, too. I mean, does Durant have to get the label as the best two-way player in the league? If that's the case, I didn't even necessarily consider that. But I mean, the stats are right there. Offensively, he is, I would say probably as much as we love Wembanyama, Durant's probably a little more polished than Wembanyama is offensively. And if he's the number 2, like, I don't know if Wemby's the second best offensive player in the league. And I guess I don't know if Durant's the second best defensive player in the league, but if he's the second best statistical defender in the league, like, I don't know if you can make the case that Wemby's necessarily the second best statistical offensive player in the league. Like, immediately, just again, from a stat standpoint, and more than that as well, too, but immediately from a stat standpoint, Jokic, Giannis, and Shea, and even Luka as well, too. And then again, there's more into the picture that maybe, a Luka versus Wemby conversation could have, with some effort stuff. Would you rather have a more locked in Wemby right now? I don't know. But, I don't know if the Spurs could add Norm Powell to the collection of guards that we have. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But I guess, again, if it's a fair trade, like, I don't think I would trade Harrison Barnes for Norm Powell. As much as it's a 1-year deal both ways, I don't think the Heat would do that as well, too. Again, Norm Powell, what's he at right now? 24.8 a game. So they're not going to give up a 25 a game score that's leading their offense for, with respect to Harrison Barnes. They're not going to give that up for a corner 3-point shooter. But, in terms of a contract standpoint, I wouldn't make that move just because of, again, what Harrison Barnes, again, is to the roster as that corner 3-point shooter. It is actually valuable to San Antonio, and they actually need his two-way ability and a little bit of his veteran status as well, too. I mean, again, is Norm Powell offensively worse, I guess, than Harrison Barnes in some of these lineups? Maybe not. But I think overall for the team, it is a little, it's not the move to make. Even Keldon Johnson as well, too. Like, they would need his energy at that forward spot compared to Norm Powell. I don't think I would do Vassell for Norm Powell. Hey, yo, now we're saying names. I don't think I would do it, chat. Ah, damn us, Let us know. We can't. Vassell's too good. He's at, 14 a game this year, chat? Lock it in. He's too good. What's his field goal percentage? 6'3" to 6'5". Is how many minutes does Vassell play in the 3 and the 4? That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. And, Miami would immediately make us regret it as well, too. Miami would, Vassell, speaking of 25 games, they'd start running the offense through Vassell. It'd be like, this man needed more opportunity the whole time. But, to get Norm Powell at this point, the last couple of years maybe where you could get these great offensive numbers from him and he could be an impact guy, I guess that might be the case to why, you don't do it. You do a trade for a guy where you get the last couple of years of anything. Pause. But, hey, yo, from an NBA standpoint, that would be, what else would we need to sweeten the deal? Hey, yo, Kasparonis, Jaquez, Pell Larson, if it was Norm Powell and Pell Larson for Vassell, I think it's probably a no. If it was Davion Mitchell and Norm Powell for Vassell, it might be too much for Miami at that point. But again, they're a play-in team, so it would just be more a swing on what Vassell could be as a creator. Could he be better than Norm Powell is right now? Could he be at 32 what Norm Powell is at 32? I guess if you got 7-year timeline there for Vassell, it could potentially happen. Do we have to take the Rozier contract back? I don't know. Do we? Hey, yo, wait for this one, chat. Wait for this one. We didn't even write this one down. This one's off the top of the head, so I don't know if, you need to tell a friend real quick to tune into the REMINGTOM pod. Oh, wait, did we bump the mic cable? Okay, we're still good to go. We have to make sure that we're locked in for this one because this is gold. This might be, it's early in the year. I hate to say that we wrote or thought of, we didn't write, but I hate to say that we're not ghostwriting over here. I hate to say that we thought of the best joke of the year this early on, but buckle up. Do we gamble on taking the Rozier contract back? Got him, chat. We got him. It is what it is. I don't know if we could make it work. That would be getting near 50 million going back in the trade. Might be a little too heavy. Hey, yo, pause. But Vassell for Norm Powell is just me being biased at this point. It's just me. Shout out to Vassell. Tune out. Hey, yo. It's a good thing we're not popular, chat. We're not saying these guys' names and they're not actually here. I muted the mic cable there. We needed to be silenced, actually, that time. It is what it is. We can't be disbanding the team. That's also proof that trade shouldn't happen. We should be back to focusing on NFL Week 18, where the playoff picture is forming and where Drake May's winning the MVP. Mitchell Trubisky also, helping Josh Allen lose his case. I guess he lost his case, missing that pass, unfortunately, last week. You hate to have it all go down to one play, but it kind of did in the moment. It is what it is. Is that you hate to, I guess, again, consider it such a major turn. Are we making a little bit too much out of a moment like that? Because I think he was even going into the game like 30-1 for MVP. So, again, I don't know at one point if it was like way up and then way back down, or, wherever it was, whatever the cycle was for that. But if he does hit that, they're 12-5 now. And then what is they're probably even in more contention, obviously, for that one seed situation. I mean, I guess the Patriots winning out as well too is, them, the Patriots are controlling their own destiny if we're narrowing it down to these last 2 weeks. And like we're saying, this Miami matchup is, definitely looking favorable on paper if you're projecting it. And, again, clearly it is working out that way as well too. But either way, again, they at least record-wise are a little bit closer. He does have an even matchup-ness than, I guess, at that point, versus, if they were able to get that to happen, and then does get that win, against Philly as well, too, of just having, logging that against a really good record team. So, and then for him to get his second MVP, I guess is Lamar at 3 right now? Do we have to double check? There's no way Lamar's not at 3 MVPs. He has to be at just 2. Shout out to Lamar. He's our guy, so we don't want to limit him to 3. Give him another way. Give him 4, chat. Give him a 4th MVP. Why not? Who cares? MVP, Super Bowls, they're not the same thing, but just give them out, chat. Just give them out. It is what it is. If it can't go to Mahomes, just give it to anybody. It doesn't matter. Mahomes, Quentin Nelson, Lamar Jackson. That's just our list every year. It is what it is. We don't even need to watch football. We'll just give it to Lamar. But he is at 2 MVPs, 3 All-Pros, 3 Pro Football Writer of America MVPs, if that counts, I guess. But, yeah, and, probably not in the mix this year as well, too. So, he would be tying, I guess, Lamar from an MVP standpoint, and has had a little bit more playoff success than Lamar's had. I don't know, again, if a legacy battle is even really considered between those two guys, just because it's a different realm. Like, with all due respect to those guys, like, you're arguing again kind of what we've seen, the eye test, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that just they've been, it's not even an eye test. It's just what it has been. They've been some of the most impressive quarterbacks that we've ever seen, but you can't necessarily argue them even against a guy like, I guess Brett Favre has a ton of MVPs as well too, so that might not be the right example. But I don't know. For me, I'm just waiting, chat. We want to be able to sit here and say that we could take Lamar over Brett Favre from an all-time. So we want to be able to rank Lamar over Brett Favre. We don't need to just, knock Brett Favre down the all-time rankings. It is what it is. And, you start throwing around some real, all-time names as well too, like Dan Marino, from a, and we're not trying to be too basic with the conversation as well too. I think, Dan Marino, you start getting into some of the, the thrower stuff. It was obviously the highest level we've ever been. I think Lamar has definitely gotten there, especially if, we're talking the regular season argument for it all. I guess Marino's got a little bit of some of the playoff stuff there as well too, though. Again, he did actually make a Super Bowl. If we're, we got to give a guy credit for every bit of the accomplishment. This is the area, I guess, of the ranking. But, Marino could be a top 10 guy as well too, even without making it. He definitely has to be, at this point, is Marino the number 1 quarterback without a Super Bowl? He kind of has to be, I would think, because, I guess Staubach got a couple, right? Staubach's got 2. It's just that from that era, Bradshaw got 4, and then, you start, I guess, Warren Moon, there's obviously some other great names as well too. So Steve Young ended up getting 1 later on for San Francisco. Did he get 2? Is Steve Young at 2? We got to go back and look at Steve Young's 30s as well too. Steve Young might be like the 6th best quarterback of all time, and nobody actually talks about it. Like Steve Young versus John Elway, that might actually be like a conversation. And I don't know if, again, Elway's in 5 Super Bowls, so there is some on paper stuff that he will win out on at the end of the day. Steve Young, 33,000 pass yards, I guess, was Elway in the 40,000, 45,000 yard club. I don't know exactly how high he got to. Again, being in the 80s and stuff. But he was 3,400 yards. He was, his first full year starting at 31 for Steve Young, 31 to 37. Shout out most guys, for Mahomes, it was 21 to 27 AO, but still was able to win 2 MVPs, 3 All-Pros in that time. And then Super Bowls, was able to win, I guess this has 3 in his career, but was that 2 or 1 for him as the starter? Yeah, so 88, okay, 1 for him as the starter. 88 and 89, he was more the backup. He did throw 5 passes in the 1989 run, 3 for 5 for 26 yards and a first down. But in 1987 did play more of a game as well too. 12 for 17, 158, and a touchdown in that game on 70% completion percentage. But yeah, 94 would have been the year that he was taken over and was actually the Super Bowl MVP, won it all on his own. So, I guess Elway does have 2, but that's kind of a Terrell Davis Super Bowl in a way. I was going to say we didn't bring up Terrell Davis on our 21st century team, but, he's a 90s guy. So if we do a 90s, remembering the 90s episode, then he is a guy that would definitely be in a all-time game situation there. But, Josh Allen, I guess, not in conversation with Steve Young quite yet, but I think it is a little bit of a turning point moment there for him, just in terms of regular season accomplishments, winning that pass or missing that pass. It could be one of those things that him not having those kind of labels and just him just going into a playoff run as just, a guy, a team, it's not that. It's still Josh Allen, and it's still him being, arguably, again, the best player in the AFC as well, too. Just from a football guy standpoint, the football guy rankings, we got Josh Allen. Is he number 1 with Mahomes is not in the playoffs? So then it's got to be Josh Allen. But, there is there's not that same type of expectations. Maybe if he's not the MVP or just that same type of, visual for the team going into the playoffs. But yeah, it is looking like it's going to be Drake May. So I know we said that we could try to find the case for the next guy. I guess is it more impressive that the Broncos don't have a guy, or less impressive? I'm not sure. Does it have to be a defensive guy? Is Bonito sneaky an MVP candidate? Do we have to go back and pay credit to all the defensive linemen this year that aren't Myles Garrett, in that we're not getting the sack record, but all still had great seasons? I remember scrolling past the list earlier, and I didn't say anything, but Brian Burns was second, and I was like, I didn't even realize Brian Burns had 16 sacks this year. Myles Garrett's just been so dominant and has been the focus for everything. Shout out Daniil Hunter at 14, Hutchinson at 13.5, to Louis Tuiuloa from the Chargers at 13, and Benito's at 12.5. So I guess I don't know if 12.5 sacks gets him over what Drake May was able to put up from a numbers standpoint this year. He did get to 4,000 yards, so he's at 4,200 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 8 picks. It does look pretty good on paper. You do have to give him that. It does look pretty good on paper. Is he leading in quarterback rating as well too? Because that advanced stat stuff is definitely going to help. So yeah, Stafford's number 2, May's number 3, or May's number 1, and Goff is actually number 3. And he is, again, cooking the Bears today. Unfortunately, the Lions just not able to string together some wins. Then Allen and Lamar, 4 and 5. Love at 6, and then, Purdy at 7. And then Daniel Jones at 8. So the long-lost MVP of the season, of course, is our guy Daniel Jones. It is what it is. So maybe he is, actually number 1 on our MVP ballot. Then we're giving it to JSN. Pause and whoa, and then Myles Garrett is the unofficial number 3. Sam Darnold, though, at 99, and I guess he's already played, so his season will end there as well too. 1 spot below Prescott on the QB rankings, and Mac Jones at number 12. So is Mac Jones one of the sleeper guys in the offseason as where will he be starting potentially next year? And that was something I was looking at, this week as well too. Not to say that every, guys play good at the end of the season doesn't mean you lock them in for starting jobs next year. But there's just a lot of decent performances from some of these guys. We mentioned Quinn Ewers. It's like, is Quinn Ewers a guy that you kind of have to see what's going on there. You know, Shuck has kind of looked decent for the Saints. It seems like he might be an option that you have to, you know, he probably is just going to be the guy that is going to be your starter there next year as well. And I guess the Jets, of course, are an obvious one with some of the drafting stuff that would happen. But the Giants as well, too, with Jackson Dart. And maybe it is fortunate that this draft is kind of, you know, you're able to maybe get away with not necessarily needing a quarterback in the same way. But it does seem like Jackson Dart is a pretty viable option as well, too, to at least see what a year 2 run there would look like. And, you know, obviously, oh, hey, yo, did our camera run out of battery? Hey, yo, I just looked over and see it was down. Give us a second. Okay, we're back. We definitely kicked the plug in with our foot at some point. It is what it is, but we are up and going again. That's definitely something IT should just be able to fix while we're live, I guess. But hey, yo, sometimes they're slacking. So we were talking about, I guess, hey, yo, where's Mac Jones gonna be starting at next year? But I guess, you know, who is like who is in just the desperate need for that quarterback as well too. And Cleveland is going to be at the top of the draft. They may be more in, you know, are you just more like willing to take another gamble more so than, again, just that desperation, like Dante Moore needs to step in and save the franchise right away. And hey, we're just leaving out the Raiders as well too. So yeah, the Raiders do have the number 1 pick as of 4 hours ago. So I guess I don't know what events would have led to them changing that. Tennessee did lose, but they were at 3 wins already, and, you know, Cam Ward as well too. Though he did end up, I think, in a sling today. So hopefully that's not, you know, going to impact him for next season as well too. And I guess Arizona could be the sneaky one. Would you do an interdivision trade? Washington with Jaden Daniels? I don't know. Maybe Cleveland is actually, maybe that's what you do there. I don't know if that puts, you know, either way, if you bring in a second viable starting option, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's a rookie contract guy or if it's a veteran. You know, if you're bringing in another option, there's just going to be that extra pressure to perform. And again, that's not a bad thing. But if you want to have that mindset as something that your quarterback is playing with, then, you know, again, it doesn't matter what approach you take. That's going to be there if that option is present. So New Orleans could definitely go there as well. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about this. Hey, yo, and I know this is kind of a, you know, a random, unplanned, is this, you know, you hate to say a sloppy segment. Hey, yo, pause. But Kansas City at number 10 right now in the draft. You know, we don't know exactly right now, I guess at this point, what's the exact timeline for Mahomes returning. Is he going to be back week 13 next year? Is he going to be back at all next year if it's, kind of a so-so season and they're in a little bit of a reset? But that would be an interesting one-year experiment because, of course, Jones is still in the spot where if he has a great full regular season, he might be able to play himself into a bigger contract. I don't know exactly what his projected salary would be as of right now. And, again, it does obviously go down to what is the need. Atlanta, I guess Atlanta doesn't have their first round pick. It's to the Rams right now. So they are at 13th in the draft, but at the Rams, or at the 13th in the draft. So, again, you're going to be bringing back Penix off of injury. You're going to want to run that back for another season or so and see what happens there. But maybe Kirk Cousins is not your veteran option anymore if you want to steer a different direction at some point in the season. And that's a team where you feel like if you have a decent veteran option, you could still win the division. I think maybe, again, Kansas City is not, if you have, maybe they want to lose a lot of games though. If you're going to reset, what's the point of resetting, I guess, and being an 8-win team. So if Arizona wants to, try to win and move on from Kyler Murray, then I guess maybe Mac Jones would be interesting. But I guess Atlanta might be an interesting Mac Jones spot. I don't know. I could see, or Minnesota, if you need a McCarthy safety blanket as well too. You didn't have Daniel Jones this year because he wanted to actually be a starter. And, again, maybe Mac Jones, if he is just not going to be a starter automatically, then why leave San Francisco? It's the best backup spot in the league because you get to be in the Shanahan system when you get to perform. But yeah, if you're just looking at it again, I think obviously Vegas, but again, Vegas doesn't have a need for quarterback per se because they have the number 1 pick. So going into the offseason, I guess unless a team is really getting desperate in trading, that is kind of solved. Just, there's no lottery as well too. That they're going to be locked in there, and New York as well too. So yeah, I guess Arizona is what happens their team, I guess, with Kyler Murray in the offseason. And then he's another name who is more, I think Mac Jones is, unfortunately for Kyler Murray, you hate to say it, I think Mac Jones is probably a little bit more likely to be a starting quarterback next year than Kyler Murray. But I guess Kyler Murray does in some ways has his own team. Though does he really? He doesn't really have the team anymore. It is what it is. I don't even know. He's under contract. That's the only thing. He's just under a big contract at this point. Kyler Murray to Atlanta. Interesting. Tampa, I guess Baker's probably pretty fine there. And Indy, again, the timeline for Daniel Jones and when does he return and what week of next year. But Riley Leonard obviously looked pretty decent today. I don't know what his final numbers ended up being, but it almost got to the point where, and again, I don't remember, I think Houston was rotating some guys in and out as well too, especially maybe once it got to the point where it was clear that Jacksonville was going to secure the division title. I know that Davis Mills ended up getting some passes. I guess I don't know exactly if that was a Stroud injury or not, but I don't believe so. But for Riley Leonard himself, he is 21 for 34, 270, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Is Riley Leonard look like he's going to be, if he had played all year, he had been rookie of the year. But again, there wasn't necessarily a quarterback that majorly emerged. Shuck, over the last couple of weeks, has trended toward that. And Cam Ward has had his moments as well, too, over the last couple of weeks where you could see his season starting to turn a little bit in the right direction. But it got to the point where it was like, okay, I definitely liked the Phillip Rivers first couple of games. It was fun. And, him being back in the mix was just a cool story. But maybe from a team building standpoint, it would have been smarter to actually see what we had in Riley Leonard over these last couple of games. And, it does seem like Daniel Jones is going to be returning. Again, the years on the deal, I think, will be the ultimate argument if it's going to be like a 2-year deal, 3, 4. Maybe Indy does get generous and gives him the third year, but I think you could see it probably ends up being a 3-year deal. It is what it is. I don't know if Daniel Jones would take a 2-year deal, but he probably would if the number was high enough. Caleb Williams, he has no touchdowns today and an interception, but he just got one in a strike across the middle of the field. So 16-7, I guess, if they don't. Ben Johnson probably definitely goes for 2 here, though. And they got the better of the Lions early in the year, if I'm not mistaken. He got his revenge. So Dan Campbell's now got to get revenge on the revenge game. The Dan Campbell revenge game is like a fun Hollywood sequel. I guess it's like a Friday plot series where the titles of the movies just get crazy. I was looking at a post that was like the most anticipated movies, and it was Last Friday. It was like, yeah, here we go, chat. 2026, we're gonna be locked in. We get Last Friday and Dune 2 in the same year. You know, that's how you know cinema is back. But yeah, maybe we should have actually been playing Riley Leonard over these last couple of games to just see what he has. So I imagine that, and I honestly kind of want to see what he is going to be like as the starting quarterback over the next couple of, because, you know, we don't have our first round pick this year. You know, again, what is the option? You know, we're probably, like I said, we're probably going to bring Daniel Jones back for the next year and a half option. But in terms of if we have to have a guy for a couple of games, is it going to be Rivers again? Is Mac Jones want to take that opportunity? Is it Flacco again for a couple of games? Like, let's just play Riley Leonard. If the experiment goes bad, you know, we don't have first round picks for who knows how long, but we'll get him back eventually. We'll be good at tanking at that point. It is what it is. Oh, wait, Caleb Williams I didn't even think about this, but they were just showing on Red Zone, shout out, the race for the first ever Bears 4,000-yard passer. So Caleb Williams is at 3,800 yards right now. He could go crazy in the fourth quarter, and just somebody needs to motivate him. This is your time. 4,000 yards. Get your name etched into Bears history. Imagine. But yeah, maybe 2026 will be the year that there's definitely going to be a lot of bets. You can already see that prop being bet. I think Caleb Williams is going to tempt people in that quite a bit. It seems like a little bit of speaking of Wiggins going to the basket, seems like a little bit of a layup that at some point, Caleb Williams, hey, Chad, are we just on fire today? It is what it is. I don't know. You know, where we watched since South Park, we really weren't, but you know, the layup line is top tier as well. I guess we're watching basketball, so it's top tier to IT. Knowing the environment of the room, but it does seem like at some point he's gonna get that threshold for the Chicago franchise, but. Yeah, maybe it is one of those things that the public keeps trending that way. Then there's just like a little bit of a jinx on it where maybe it won't happen. But still, I think it's could you get that like prop in his career at some point when it started, where it was like, will Caleb Williams break the franchise record for passing yards at some point? I guess that's a little bit more vague. That's, he doesn't have to necessarily get 4,000 to do that. I mean, he might have already done that, honestly. Maybe that's the stat they were showing. But I'm personally more focused on, can he be that first 4,000-yard passer for the Bears? Because that's crazy. That's crazy. They are the only one, right? Like, I guess Joe Namath had 4,000 yards back in the day for the Jets. Again, the Jets was the other one I was thinking of. Did Baker have 4,000 yards for the Browns? Did Otto Graham have 4,000 yards? I mean, they had a couple decent seasons there in the 90s. They've had, literally a couple decent seasons. So I guess they managed to have somebody throw for 4,000 yards. Tim Couch, did he have like a good stat season or something? Brady Quinn, maybe? I don't know. Did Brady Quinn play for the Browns? He might have. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine what Brown quarterback threw for 4,000 yards. It had to have been Baker. I'll double check here. That year they made the playoffs. I don't know if it was much more than that, but he would be my first guess. No, he didn't. He threw for 4,000 yards his first time in Tampa. He was at 38-27 in Cleveland. So here we go. Let's see. Who is the Browns' season leader for passing yards? Maybe we should. Brian Sipe. Brian Sipe in 1980. Ayo. So we said every decade except for that one. He got 4,132 yards, 30 touchdowns, 24 picks. And then he also got 3,800 yards as well, too. 38-76. Bernie Kosar, 38-54. And then, Baker Mayfield, 38-27. And then Sipe again, 37-39. So people never talk about him, I guess because of Otto Graham. Unfortunately, Otto Graham has nerfed Brian, or he, it was already before that. But won the MVP of the league in 1980 that year as well. So the best quarterback season in modern history for the Browns is 1980 Brian Sipe, I guess, or 1979 Brian Sipe. He had 7 game-winning drives that year. A little bit lower quarterback rating. 28 touchdowns. 26 picks. He had 25 picks the next year. Hey, yo. So he went 28-26, then won the MVP at 30-14, and then in 1981 was 17 touchdowns, 25 picks. Hey, yo, did not make the Pro Bowl that year. But yeah, was third in MVP voting in 79 anyways. Earl Campbell, Dan Fouts, Brian Sipe. Brian Sipe, almost the quarterback of the 80s. He kind of straddled a decade there. Pause. It kind of hurt his career as well, too, I guess. But is that how it goes? Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, and Brian Sipe for the 80s. Oh, you got Ken Stabler there as well, too. And I guess Fouts literally above him in MVP voting. Also, a name you have to consider was Jim Zorn. Yeah, Jim Zorn was the quarterback for Seattle. He was 6th in offensive player voting of the year this year, I guess. Shout out. They were cooking a little bit. 9-7. 4th in offense, though. 24th in defense. 24 out of 28. Holding them back. Jim Zorn and Steve Largent getting underappreciated because of the defense. And Sherman Smith, the running back as well, too. Where did he go to college at? Sherman, Miami, Ohio? I was going to say, it feels like maybe there was a moment there, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking somebody else. I'm not sure. But, I don't know, pause or not. But, shout out to, I guess, Brian Sipe for being, again, getting the 4,000-yard threshold for the Cleveland Browns. But, yeah, outside of that, the Raiders, Gannon won the MVP, so I imagine Gannon and Derek Carr. Derek Carr had some good stat seasons as well, too. Were they a little, overblown, sometimes being compared? I think there was some moments where some talking heads were saying, Derek Carr over Andrew Luck for starting a franchise. People getting a little crazy, with all due respect to Derek Carr. But the Raiders have had some guys, Eli, Washington, New Orleans, Arch Manning, Drew Brees. Obviously that's the order for New Orleans quarterbacks. It is what it is. I guess maybe Detroit up until Jared Goff would have been another one where you wouldn't necessarily have thought of the name right away. But Carolina, Cam Newton definitely had some 4,000-yard passing seasons, and maybe even Jake Delhomme as well too. So yeah, still Chicago, the only one. It is what it is. I was going to say Seattle, but yeah, Russell Wilson would have had some stats here. Stroud for Houston. I mean, even Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub had like 40. What was Matt Schaub's highest year? I remember that one year where it's just like, he really is going to go crazy all year. It is what it is. Just sometimes you have to admit the guy is on a heater right now. So he made 2 Pro Bowls, 2009 and 2012. Yeah, he was 298 yards a game in 2009. 4,770 yards. 29 touchdowns, 15 picks. Did not make an All-Pro team because I guess they were 9-7 that year. 10th in offense, 17th in defense. Was that Foster as well too? Yeah, Andre Johnson, Arian Foster, Jacoby Jones. Rest in peace on this team as well too. So Owen Daniels. This offense was sneaky stacked. Even Steve Slayton is like the secondary running back. Steve Slayton. I don't know, not bad. The year before, 1,282 yards and 9 touchdowns. So was 2009, was that Foster's rookie year then? That year? Yeah, it was. So yeah, I guess I wasn't even paying attention to his stats, just looking for his name. That year himself, he was only 257 yards. And then 2010 was the year he was 1,600 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns and started his dominant little fantasy run there as well, too. Not little, not trying to disrespect him. Rex Grossman, the backup quarterback. What a quarterback room. Matt Schaub and Rex Grossman as your 2 guys. But yeah, he was on fire that year. Oh, Chet! You know who the offensive coordinator was? I mean, this just shows, I'm stereotyping myself at this point that I even remember these random seasons. It is what it is. I don't even know if I knew this before, but the offensive coordinator of that team was Kyle Shanahan. It is what it is. Once again, we find ourselves appreciating a team by our guy, Kyle Shanahan. So, yeah, I didn't even realize that he even had a Houston Texans run in there at that point. And, again, the team itself, 9-7. Did they even make the playoffs? They didn't even make the playoffs this year. So, not even that great of a team overall. Matt LaFleur, this was a great coaching staff, chat. You got Kubiak as the head coach, there for some years at Houston. Shanahan is the offensive coordinator. Frank Bush is the defensive coordinator. But you have Matt LaFleur as the offensive quality coach. And you have Robert Saleh as the assistant linebacker coach. Shanahan, LaFleur, and Saleh, and Kubiak. You've got 4 head coaches on this lineup. And they went 9-7. So they did have some good seasons around that. I guess 8-8 in 2008. What were they in 2010? 6-10? Did they have like a 11-win year in here. I guess they just got wins against Indianapolis. It is what it is. 6-10, 8-8. Nope, they didn't win any games. 9-7 was their best season. Hey yo, second in the AFC South. Well, that's good to know. That. Oh, there we go. 10-6. That's the year they won the division. It is what it is. 2011, and he was that year. I guess 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. Yeah, he only played 10 games. T.J. Yates played some games. Yo, Matt Schaub, 7-3 as a starter that year. Did he make the Pro Bowl? Hey yo, he didn't. But was that like a? Do we have to go back and remember? Was there like, oh, would Houston have won the Super Bowl if that would have been the case? Unfortunately, Shanahan was gone at this point. Rick Dennison took over, but then you have Wade Phillips as the defensive coordinator. So now the defense is fourth in the league. So they just flipped the identity of the team, except for the fact that Matt Schaub was still cooking. Imagine Wade Phillips and Shanahan at the same time, and Matt Schaub. Oh, chat, we just missed out on a legendary team up as well too. Oh, and speaking of adding to the quarterback room, it went from Matt Schaub and Rex Grossman to Matt Schaub. Our guy Jake Delhomme is back, and then Matt Leinart even played a game for this team. Matt Leinart went 10 for 13 for 57 yards and a touchdown. Hey, yo, chat. I honestly, again, no disrespect. Shout out. I'd love if Matt Leinart called in, but I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. He was 4-7 his rookie year, 56% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 12 picks, 2,500 yards. What was he? 213 per game. Okay, shout out. A little bit different than 57 in that 10 for 13 for 57. He did start, so did he get subbed out? Hey, yo, that is crazy. I guess that's one start, but that's 2 games. So that might not even be in one game. I don't even know. We might have to dig into the Matt Leinart run pause, but yeah, shout out. So who even remembers what we were doing down this Houston trail as well too? Something about Matt Schaub stats and quarterback placement in the league and where all these guys are starting. But yeah, I guess maybe the mystery, like we're saying, the mystery is what you got to figure out, because it would be, I guess we kind of already mentioned as well too. But you would imagine that the Jets are gonna take a quarterback, especially since they have the 15th pick as well too. Hey yo, Indy not helping out, helping ourselves out there, but I guess helping out the Jets for rebuilding this team. It is what it is. We're such a nice guy. We're just like, yeah, the Jets, they can have our first round pick this year. We don't need it. Of course we need it. We're not that nice. We would definitely not trade our first round pick for, well, I guess, I wouldn't say definitely not for Sauce Gardner. Maybe the second one gets a little rich, but yeah, I guess either way, we'll see what happens with that. So you imagine that in 2 opportunities, they will take 1 risk. Right now, Tankathon has him at Dante Moore at 3, and then Peter Woods, defensive lineman from Clemson, with that 15th pick. But Ty Simpson would also be on the board. They have him going 21 to Pittsburgh. So maybe that's just kind of the convenience of that. And I guess they would be a mystery team as well, too. They've had some decent production there with Aaron Rodgers, and we're just kind of not thinking about that. But, obviously, you got to start thinking about, again, what the other franchise opportunities are going to be. Otherwise, just in reverse order, again, at the draft pause, Darnold, Nix, May, Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders, again, he'll probably be starting. Stroud, Purdy, Hurts, Stafford. I guess maybe there is a little mystery with Stafford, but again, you're going to a playoff run this year. So if they win a Super Bowl, then I guess it doesn't really matter. But Allen, Herbert, so we got the Steelers, Dak, Bryce Young, McCarthy. So the Vikings would maybe be another one as well too. Shout out to our guy McCarthy. Lamar, Goff, the Jets, Mayfield, the Rams, the Cowboys. So I guess the thing is going to be like we're saying, the chaos. Who do we not know that's going to make the wild quarterback move at this point? I guess it's not necessarily the NBA where you can just lock that in, but like looking at the Lions with Goff, maybe you think you just add a couple more pieces, you get healthier for a full year, and then you're going to be locked back in for another playoff run. Like, that team is still really, really talented. And I wouldn't want to bet against Hutch and Goff being a really productive quarterback and what that offense could be going into next year. But I'm looking at Carolina at 19 as well, and just because, they just because of them winning a division and maybe, if they win a playoff game, I guess that does change things. But imagine they lose a playoff game at home. Again, not the most shocking thing to maybe consider, but it would maybe not necessarily, again, guarantee that if something dramatic, obviously, did pop up for potential, what would happen there. And then maybe Cincinnati as well, too, with Joe Burrow. But I'm not totally bought in at this point to the fact that, Joe Burrow is going to retire early. I don't know. I don't like the fact that, Colts fans have that. And we're not the only team that has that as well, too. The Lions are a team that maybe you would stereotype as that before that, with Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders both retiring. And no disrespect to either of those guys, but would you, and this is now we're being biased. It is what it is. This is a biased Colts fan hot take, but it is trying to be presented as a rational football take because the quarterback spot is the most valuable spot in football. Would you consider drafting Andrew Luck in a fantasy standpoint, again, just a hypothetical team building standpoint, before Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders? Now, people like myself, people similar in age that watch Calvin Johnson growing up, are probably going to immediately say no because, Calvin Johnson is, again, a menace to society. Shout out to Tubi once again. But either way, we know that Calvin, and I guess we don't know because obviously they had Stafford for some of those years as well, too. So it's even a little bit more than just a quarterback and Calvin Johnson. Obviously the offensive line and the defense and all the different stuff. Our guy Mahomes this year has been struggling because the team around him is not successful. So, you can have the greatest quarterback of all time and your team can win 6 games. It's possible. But, I feel like you would really, if your options, if it was a random, I guess, does it have to be only those 3 options where you consider Andrew Luck? Obviously, if your options are Luck and Calvin Johnson, what are the other quarterbacks on the board as well, too? Speaking of is Moreno on the board? Is Roger Staubach on the board at this point? Are we considering Staubach over Andrew Luck? And, Andrew Luck maybe gets a little bit more of a talent boost than, obviously the years played and stuff like that. But, we don't need another quarterback. We don't need another fan base out here taking our moment, Chad. Again, it's a moment that you don't want to have, but, that's our thing. Our thing is Andrew Luck retired early and we get to complain about it. So if Joe Burrow also retires early, then that's the new focus for that. And now until the next quarterback retires early. And I guess that's the more recent one as well, too, right? Did he retire? I guess now we're being biased. He did retire after Calvin Johnson. IT can maybe fact check that. Help prove us right. But, Lions fans got to complain about it. Now the Colts fans, we're the ones. So again, there's probably something that I'm definitely forgetting about as well, too. And obviously we're not considering in this conversation, a career like, again, I don't want to bring up a name to, just like randomly bring up a tragic event as well, too. But, a guy like Ryan Shazier, obviously, is just in a totally different category as well. I think that's probably understood. But, for, again, the guys that retired, hung up the cleats a little bit earlier because of, and, obviously maybe you say there was some injury stuff at play with Andrew Luck. But again, and fortunately, I'm sure Andrew Luck would even say, fortunately for himself, a decision made based in different types of stuff. But if Burrow is the next guy that's like, you know what? I've played 6-7 years and I'm good. I don't need to play NFL football anymore. Then people aren't good. And I don't know, people would probably even talk about Burrow as a bigger what if maybe in NFL history because he did get to a Super Bowl. I guess Andrew Luck never got to a Super Bowl. And Burrow had a better individual season in college. Andrew Luck definitely a better college career overall than Joe Burrow. But in terms of one season, again, obviously 2019 LSU is as dominant a team as you're going to get. I think between that, I guess we didn't do like a college football 21st century team. We might have to double back, Chad. Hey, stay tuned. Tuesday. Ooh, we've got the college football and we could do a college basketball. Lock it in. We've got the 21st century all-time teams, all-time games for those sports that we have to line up as well too. But now I'm distracted, chat. What were we even rambling about at this point? Was it that important if thinking about immediately thinking about who we can put on this roster distracts us. It is what it is. But were we looking up all pros or something? Quarterback play. I don't know. We'll be back there at some point. Mahomes, Burrow, Andrew Luck. There we go. Okay, Andrew. It wouldn't take us long to remember Andrew Luck, I guess. It is what it is here. So we'll see. Oh, that's what we were gonna look at. Andrew Luck, some of the Stanford numbers to see what happened there. So again, Burrow at LSU had to bounce around from Ohio State first. So there is gonna be both number 1 overall picks. I think Andrew Luck was maybe a little, we're going to put in quotes surefire because, again, Burrow had injuries and, 1 season as well, too. So, I don't know. Did he have a career starts thing? I don't know. We might have to go back and double check that. He did play that full season before. But, yeah, back-to-back number 2 Heisman votes for Andrew Luck. Led the conference in passer rating all 3 years, even his freshman year. Pretty good. 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. Yards per attempt, aggressive all 3 years as well too. Confident in his throws, and then 3,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks, 3,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks that year. 70% completion both those years. I mean, yes, those were just insane years from our guy Luck. So he was number 2 in Heisman both those years. Who won the other Heisman? 11. So one of those years obviously was RG3. But I don't remember who got the other one. So, Newton. It was directly against Cam Newton. Shout out. That just shows you, I guess, how dominant that Cam Newton season was. I didn't even realize that Andrew Luck season had taken place in that season. It's not to say that we had forgotten about the Cam Newton season. But I didn't even consider the fact that Andrew Luck could have overlapped with was there another quarterback playing college football that year? It was just literally Cam Newton was everywhere. The man was making every play possible. In 2010, it is what it is. So, again, maybe us remembering those years from that time range is not always perfect, but RG3 the next year as well too. Very dynamic. 4,300 pass yards, 37 touchdowns, 6 picks. I mean, again, from an award standpoint, makes sense. I know the NFL thing, it is what it is. But even in the NFL, obviously, individual season, when they were fully healthy that first year, RG3 got Rookie of the Year. It is what it is. So RG3, again, a different conversation, unfortunately. The injuries and stuff definitely cut his career short in a different way than Andrew Luck's career did. But Burrow, and again, I guess Burrow winning a Heisman, winning a national title, maybe Burrow did accomplish more in 1 year than Andrew Luck did. Did he have as many yards in this year as Andrew Luck in both those years? So he was at 56-71 that year in 60 touchdowns? Jeez. Jeez Louise, it really is. It really is almost equal. That's insane. 60 touch. He was at what? I think Andrew Luck was pushing 70. So pause. It wasn't. There's a little bit of a difference there over time. Obviously, he'll get him if we start adding more and more years to it. But the fact that Joe Burrow in 1 season was able to make up for Andrew Luck in 2 is pretty crazy. So, maybe Burrow is the more talented quarterback. I don't know. Could Andrew Luck have not thrown for 5,600 yards and 60 touchdowns in 2019's LSU offense? You know what? I don't know. I don't know how to do football. I don't know how the football math is going to math for this. Maybe Andrew Luck would hold the football a little bit longer. He might be 5,200 yards and 52 touchdowns, something in that range. And, his interception percentage was a tad higher. So maybe he's 12 picks, 5,200 yards, 52 touchdowns, 12 picks, somewhere in that range, 70-some% completion percentage, maybe just a smidge. So I don't know. I guess I won't necessarily admit it to myself. It is what it is. But, the numbers are fairly convincing, chat. Unfortunately, we're going to have to scroll up and ignore the stats. Shout out. So, we can't let Joe Burrow now, nerf Andrew Luck as the early retirement quarterback. Is there another early retirement quarterback that I'm not thinking of? So here, let's go back and double check games played for their career for Andrew Luck. I guess that's got to be the best way. I'm assuming there's no tricky way to figure out the shortened career. When we go to the stat head here, but he was 4 Pro Bowls. I guess no first team All-Pro appearances for him. No second team as well too. Never like a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league, but 4,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 38-23, 4,700 yards, 40 touchdowns for him there. So yeah, 29 as of right now. 6 years played, but 7 years in the league total, with 2017 being, a total season miss. And then, yeah, Ayo was actually getting protected a little bit in 2018. You start bringing in Quentin Nelson, start at least trying to change things up in that direction. 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns. The good old days, chat. Maybe Andrew Luck could still play. Phillip Rivers at 45 can step back out there. Can we does Andrew Luck? He's probably having a great time being the Stanford GM. He loves it. It's just that's how you know that. I guess obviously he made the right decision for himself. At the end of the day, it is for himself. Shout out. We can't say whether or not he made the right or wrong decision, but it's like he's literally never even been tempted to. There's never been a rumor. Maybe a couple of times there is a whiff of a rumor, but never really, it seemed like, from Andrew Luck's people. It was always like Colts blogs being like, hey, maybe this is the time where we go DM Andrew Luck and see if he'll return and be our quarterback. So, Bears tied it up 16-16 with 3:45 left. Caleb Williams, he's been that clutch, I was going to say miracle worker. I don't know if that's a little too rich, but it's been kind of getting close to that. Though I was thinking about their season. Was it not last year that they had the whole situation in that game with Washington where the guy gives up the Hail Mary? I don't know if we can go back and track all of their fourth quarter results from last year, but I feel like them in Kansas City, and maybe we're not the only ones to point this out as well too, but I feel like they have proved sort of the karma of the football stats in that way. And obviously Kansas State's a little bit different. If you imagine a team with, and not to say that Caleb Williams obviously can't be a great quarterback, but a team with a great quarterback in Mahomes, you could see them having a little bit more consistency every year in close game scenarios. But they were 11-0 in like every end of game situation, and literally everything broke their way. And I'm sure if we go back for the record for close game scenarios over this whole stretch, it's been pretty one-sided in their way. So again, that's obviously the greatness of Mahomes. That's why we love him. He's clutch. But maybe at some point it just like goes back a little bit to not even average, but just like, a little bit of correction the other way. And maybe the Bears are, the overcorrected good team this year, where last year, literally they got every single bad break. And yes, they're probably, from a football standpoint, more prepared. Caleb Williams is probably playing better. The system and Ben Johnson is probably more favorable to his play style. And Ben Johnson is probably smarter, he is a smarter play caller, and the defense is improved, and they got Joe Tooney. They have all of the pieces in place as well too. We're not saying that, but they also are just, maybe in a vague sort of, not even football, but again, like, what do you say, like universal standpoint from an NFL standpoint, like maybe it's just they're meant to win some of these close games in the regular season that they didn't get last year and balance back out. Because I guess I still don't know if I trust them to be like a clutch playoff team, but they've been the most clutch team in the league in the regular season. But again, wasn't Minnesota that as well too with Darnold? He did end up losing to one of the teams that, is his kryptonite. Superman Sam Darnold, literally the Rams, and the Lions, I guess, or his kryptonite, but the Rams for this playoff run, if he's able to run into him. But anyway, back to Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow. We can't have, we got to figure out the shortened careers. So yeah, 86 games played. So do we say 85? Let's go 90 games played for a quarterback career. You go to some of the earlier regular seasons where they just weren't playing as many games. I'm sure that there might be a Hall of Famer that played 90 games. I mean, Andrew Luck might borderline. I think he's up for eligibility here soon. If not, he might have already been up for a couple of times. Here, wait, when did he actually retire? Let's see, what year was that? 2018? So yeah, I think he's probably been up for a couple of seasons. I think 23,000 passing yards, 0 All-Pro teams, and 3 Pro Bowls. Is that enough, chat, in 6 years? And super likability, all-time upside. Is that enough to get you in the Hall of Fame? If it was the NBA, it might. Oh, chat, we're 3 for 3. We're 3 for 3 today. We're gonna accumulate a Mount Rushmore of jokes by the time that this is over. So we've got to go less than 90 games played for a quarterback career. And I guess Burrow, he might be over that. I doubt it. I highly doubt Joe Burrow has played more. I'm going to say Joe Burrow's played like 65 games. Hey, yo. Let's see what we get here. That's all we need, right? Quarterbacks, 90 games? Okay. Let's see what we got. Maybe we need to add one more little stats filter in there just to see, but the only way to see is to see what results we get. Oh, so Kyler Murray, the #1 fantasy quarterback of all time. So, yeah, we'll change the stats to figure out how to sort this a little bit better. But really, we just need the names, right? We just need the names. If we go from the years, is there anybody back in the day that we're missing? Okay, Bernie Masterman. Hey, yo, whoa. Charlie O'Rourke. Clyde LaForce. Whoa, chat. That might be the all-quarterback name starter right there. Clyde LaForce. I thought Clyde the Glide Drexler was the best Clyde name of all time. I guess Walt Clyde Frazier is just a nickname as well, too, which is pretty fun. But Clyde LaForce is pretty great. Ralph. How many guys in the NFL right now are named Ralph? I'm probably forgetting one. But I don't know. Steve Spurrier. Shout out. Quarterback himself back in the day. Todd Blackledge, 83. Okay. Now we're getting into a little bit of a different part of the list. We're just calling out guys that we've seen on TV, I guess, at this point. Chad Pennington, pretty good. David Garrard, 86 games played. I do like David Garrard, chat. What do we got? We've got tons of names now. We're starting to get into the range of like, oh, I remember this guy. Seneca Wallace. Shout out. Byron Leftwich, J.P. Lozman. We won our first ever Madden game with J.P. Lozman as our starting quarterback. I'm going to say it's because we were trying to play with Marshawn Lynch in Buffalo. But J.P. Lozman, we had to also play with J.P. Lozman as the quarterback. And we had to, I remember we played the Texans because we like to get wins against AFC South teams. So we played that. Oh, Vince Young as well too. Jason Campbell, kind of fun. I don't know if he's going to be in the conversation against Andrew Luck. But, Sam Bradford. What if Josh Freeman? Ooh, Josh Freeman might be the second best quarterback here as well. Oh, Kaepernick. Oh, Kaepernick did make a Super Bowl. Now, is Kaepernick the best quarterback under 90 games? This mark that we set. And where was Burrow at? Oh, Burrow's at 76. Okay, not bad. So do we do all pros, Pro Bowls, passing yards? I guess if we do all pros, then, we're going to... Oh, okay, we can do either. I was going to say we're going to leave out Andrew Luck, but we can't do that. Hey, yo. The whole point of this is to have a list where Andrew Luck is #1. The #1 quarterback that played in 90 games or less in their NFL career. So Burrow's got one more season in terms of the regular season to get there because he'll be at 77 games played right now. And, like I said, Andrew Luck is at 86. So he will be needing only 9 starts to actually tie Luck, but at least to get to this mark that we set at. He's got roughly a couple of injuries. We'll say a Joe Burrow season. Oh, chat, that's mean. That's not going on the Mount Rushmore of jokes. That is too mean. Oh, wait a second. All pro. It said either. Okay, so yeah, that would... Oh, maybe we didn't save that correctly here. Let's see. Either number of years selected. Either we could just go 0. At least any. Okay, this might have to be the way. Unless it just goes, okay, that doesn't mean anything. And then filters it out. But I want to actually see the number. Okay, here we go. So we've got somebody. Did somebody make 3? More than 3. Oh, Joey Sternman from 22-29 made 1. And then Johnny Lujak. Whoa. Hey, yo. Who was the Masterman guy? We got a Masterman and a Lujak from back in the day. It's kind of crazy. But he also made an all-pro team. So Kyler Murray, again, just a fantasy points is 1. And he's 2/10 of a fantasy point ahead of Andrew Luck. Oh, and Andrew Luck's got 1 more PPR fantasy point. But points per game, Luck does have him. So wait, fantasy points per game? Okay, this might be the stat. Oh, Deshaun Watson's #1. And then Jaden Daniels is #2. Oh, some of the newer guys, okay. Drake May, Brock Purdy, Jackson Dart, 17 fantasy points a game. Hey, yo. Shout out. Blake Bortles. He was also in a conference championship. So wait, let's go Pro Bowl. We do know that Andrew Luck made a Pro Bowl. So, guys, I guess making 1 Pro Bowl is probably a pretty good qualification, even if you only had, 5 or 6 seasons to try. Let's see what the leaders in this would be. Maybe 3 is... Oh, I see 4. Okay, yeah, Luck 4 Pro Bowls. Shout out. Deshaun Watson 3. Bobby Thompson 3. Murray and Burrow and Vince Young all at 2. Al Daro. Our guy Johnny Lou Jack is back. And Drake May already getting his 2nd Pro Bowl in 2 years. Trevor Lawrence. David Garrard back again with that Pro Bowl. Where's Brunell? Brunell didn't have a Pro Bowl. Pat Hayden with a Pro Bowl as well. Shout out. So Frank Chapruka. Yeah, it really might be Luck. Again, you know, Ayo. Obviously, whatever we saw from the peak versions of Deshaun Watson was pretty good. But the career, obviously, you know, Ayo doesn't need a lot of analysis there. And then I think the year 2, year 3 guys, of course, they don't really count in this mix because, you know, we're assuming Joe Burrow's retiring early is why we're talking about him here. But it would be Andrew Luck and Vince Young and David Garrard, I guess, is in the mix for the best quarterbacks to play 90 or less games. So, yeah, Burrow, if he wants to get it the honor of taking Andrew Luck's title for that, then he can retire after like 14 games played next year. I guess that would put him one over, wouldn't it? 13 games played, and then he retires or misses a couple of games, ends the season with 13, and then says, "Hey, I've had a great career. It's time to hang up the cleats." But I don't know. I'm not buying it. I think Burrow, hot take, will be back. You know, tune in next time when Joe Burrow announces his retirement. But I still assume the guy wants to play football. I mean, what are we doing here, Chad, if not playing football at the end of the day? I don't know if he needs to call into the Rem and Sam pod, but can we, I mean, you know, now is the pause, you know, we're not trying to get problematic. You know, can we switch, you know, we're not trying to switch places with Joe Burrow, really. But I guess in terms of can we switch, we'll be the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. If he wants to make that trade, you know, I would still probably recommend them maybe getting some other options. But if they want to get us into the camp to compete, you know, we'll take his spot in the camp. Well, how about that? We don't need to, you know, lock us in as the starter. Who are we over here? We're not going to be the number 1 overall pick. So I don't know if we can make those kind of demands. But if he says, "Hey, I'm retiring and I would like to give my spot on camp to the," you know what? I think it might take Rem and Sam. It might take us both to accumulate Joe Burrow's stats. So I think he could give 2 spots in the camp to the pod. And then we could potentially, you know, it would be like, you know, a 2 quarterback system. There'd be some third down, some packages. We could make it work. I don't know exactly. You know, we'd have to get. I'm sure Sam actually with the ultimate frisbee experience is gonna be the leader. I'm definitely goal line. I'm Taysom Hill in this case, Chad. It is what it is. You know, there might be a game where I have to start, but I like subbed in the second quarter and I like had put up a good completion percentage. It's like, oh, actually, you know, maybe he could be a starter for a season. But it's like, no, you need him running around some trick plays and, you know, every now and then, you know, maybe a more heavily used Jason Tatum. Who is this? Taysom Hill? Who are we talking about? Hey, yo, it is what it is. Jason Tatum, he'd probably be fine in the Taysom Hill role. It is what it is. How many NBA guys could be in the Taysom Hill role? I'm not sure. But all that being said, Cincinnati fans, chill out. Joe Burrow's going to be back next year. I guess maybe Cincinnati fans, will he be back in Cincinnati? But I guess Joe Burrow fans, chill out. He'll be back next year. It is what it is. And I guess I'm saying all this to assume Cincinnati as well, too. Cincinnati is such a lame franchise that I'm assuming they won't get Joe Burrow any help, but I'm assuming they also won't let Joe Burrow leave as well, too. I mean, I guess Carson Palmer did have a Raiders run. So how long was he playing for the Raiders for? But he was in Cincinnati for a while there. So these guys, Andy Dalton, for some reason they tend to stay. I guess they get paid. You know, they'll pay the quarterback. It is what it is. They do know maybe a little bit about, you know, marketing in some ways. You know, barely, but he was there for 7 years. Okay, in Cincinnati for 7, Oakland for 2, and then played 5 years in Arizona. So, you know, a nice little run there from 34 to 38. He was 25 when he got to Cincinnati. Let's see, Joe Burrow, to go double check his page one more season. Actually, I don't think we've been to his NFL page. He was 24 when he got to Cincinnati. 6 years so far. So on to Cincinnati. Year 7, I imagine, is how it would go. All-time leader in completion percentage, Joe Shiesty. But yeah, we got 7 for Carson Palmer, and then what do we say? Andy Dalton? I bet it's probably pretty close to that. It's probably pretty close. 9 years for Andy Dalton in Cincinnati. It's a decade-long run. He's the most steady starter that the franchise has ever had. But and again, Burrow, I guess not the leading passer every year because again there's some injury stuff in there. Flacco, the leading passer this year. It is what it is. But yeah, you go, Palmer there for a bunch of years, like we said, Dalton, Boomer Esiason, and Ken Anderson, obviously holding down the beginning of the franchise in the 80s and into the 90s. So there was a little bit of, finding a guy between, I guess, Boomer Esiason and Carson Palmer. Who's Klinger? We got David Klinger, first round, 6th overall pick in 1992. Hey, yo. I'm not going to do every draft recap, I guess. Oh, this was the draft where the Colts had the 1 and the 2. Hey, yo. We don't like to speak about that one. There might be some documentaries there. They did get 4 seasons out of Jeff Blake. 4 seasons in a Pro Bowl. 6th round pick from the Jets goes to the Bengals and makes a Pro Bowl in 95 just randomly. Shout out. That was just to make the Jets mad, honestly. There was nothing else besides that. And then there was also Neil O'Donnell had a season in here as well too, 1998. And then Smith, Achilles Smith had a season. Was he another high draft pick? Yeah, they got him as the 3rd overall pick in 1999. So hey, yo, the history of the quarterback drafting there for him was not going crazy well. And then where did they get Kitna? Did they draft Kitna, or was he a signed guy? Undrafted free agent? Oh wait, yeah, John Kitna. I was gonna say Joe Kitna. Who's Joe Kitna? So he was in Seattle, and then I guess moved over to Cincinnati as the starter in 2001, and then was in Cincinnati for 5 years. But Carson Palmer, eventually took over as well. So maybe it is time for Burrow to leave, but Palmer was there for 7 seasons, so it feels a little bit more, Carson Palmer-esque than Andy Dalton-esque. I know that Burrow's probably maybe even a little bit more talented at this point than maybe we would regard Carson Palmer at that point in his NFL career as well. What would that be? I guess 2008, 29. He only played 4 games, so that's kind of tough. And he had made a couple of Pro Bowls, 5th in MVP voting, the playoffs, 0-1 in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think Burrow, probably the most talented Bengals quarterback at this point. Probably not a hot take. But, yeah, I would say 1 more year for Burrow in Cincinnati. They'll see what happens there. I don't know, again, what the offseason will bring. I wouldn't expect too much, but, yeah, I would say that at least Burrow and Chase will run it back for 1 more year. So, I don't know. Is there any other random Week 18 specific stuff, I guess, that we have to get into as well? How much do we want to rant about how good Quinn Ewers has continued to look, just in terms of the box score being okay? What did he have today? Oh, he had an interception, but hey, what do you do? He's a rookie. 16 for 23, 137, and a touchdown. Zach Wilson 0 for 2. Hey, yo, wait, how much hate do we want to give him for going 0 for 2? Drake May, 14 for 18, 191, and a touchdown, just doing what he needs to do. Josh Dobbs, 3 for 4. We get Josh Dobbs and Josh Johnson in Week 18. We need a Week 18 quarterback bingo card for next year. I don't know what the odds are that we get Josh Johnson and Josh Dobbs both. Maybe we just have it for a week in general. Like a week where we get all those guys. Week 18 is a common week, where you get, of course, the backups. But with the injuries and stuff, I mean, we had portions of this season where we had some off-ball weeks. So I think, we were saying when we signed Phillip Rivers that, hey, where is Josh Johnson? And maybe even we say, where is Josh Dobbs? But I don't think it would be surprising that, again, like a Week 14, Week 11, it's like all those guys just randomly out there for the same time. So there has to be a couple other names that we could throw in the mix as well, too. Like, I don't know if Mac Jones, if you're going to be not definitely a starter, but if you could arguably be a starter, then I don't think it's Huntley chat. Hey, yo. So I hate to, tear it out in a certain way, but if we had, again, I don't know, maybe like Malik Willis, I don't know, maybe will he be a starter? I don't know if, where our stock is there as well too. But maybe it's just a 2-person bingo card. It's just Josh Dobbs and Josh Johnson. It is what it is. But there's definitely some other iconic, backup names that we're not leaving out. We did have Joe Milton play today for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe Joe Milton's becoming a guy as well too. Oh, Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a great one. Minshew. how can we leave out Minshew? He's not playing today. He also tear his ACL? But Aluakon has actually been okay as well. So do we have to get Sam calling in to see if he'll trade Mahomes for some picks and then Aluakon and rebuild the team there? I guess they did bring in Bouchel, so I don't know who they started. Bouchel is 6 for 12, 86. Aluakon, 11 for 17 for 54. So Bouchel's taking 5 sacks and Aluakon's taking 3. Maybe he just got hurt. It is what it is. They're on their 4th quarterback. That'd be crazy. Wait, who's playing right now? Who had the latest drives? Stats registered. Let me see here. I guess it's just scoring. We need to see all page. Oh, we don't need to reload the page. All scoring plays. Here we go. 4th quarter, their last field goal drive. It was Bouchel. So we could maybe scour the internet to see what happened to our guy Aluakon. But he did look interesting. Him and Quinn Ewers both put up some decent, like, hey, I'm hanging in there. I'm being professional. I'm running around. I'm managing an offense. Kind of okay. Like, again, no disrespect to Trey Lance. Trey Lance, 16 for 32, 98 in an interception. He has looked kind of tough. Viable run option, 8 for 54. But the throw-in stuff has not, of course, materialized quite yet. That's our expert breakdown of Trey Lance's game. I guess Bo Nix having, an okay stats day as well, too. Not great. But fortunately, they still had that Packers game a couple weeks ago that is going to make Broncos fans feel a lot better about his playoff potential. But, yeah, so I guess if we were going to go random end-of-the-season performers that just keep an eye on this guy, Shuck definitely has an opportunity to have, like we're saying, a starting job. I think a lot of people were watching Shedeur Sanders. So it's more just us being on the bandwagon. And he had another game-winning drive. Again, they were playing the Bengals today. They're playing a healthy Bengals team. Is he out there putting up crazy stats? Burrow's on the other side. Again, like we're saying, obviously one of the best stats quarterbacks, one of the best quarterbacks that we have. 29 for 39, 236, 3 touchdowns and an interception. It doesn't matter. You know what? This is where we're saying this is where we're reducing it to the points argument. The Cleveland Browns had 20 points and the Cincinnati Bengals had 18. We need Shedeur. We need the quarterback that scores more points at the end of the day, and that's Shedeur. That is Shedeur. So he was 11 for 22 for 111 and no touchdowns, no picks. Who even knows how they scored? Honestly, they have no receiving touchdowns and no rushing touchdowns. How did they get to? Was it all field goals? Did they take all field goals today? What happened? They had a defensive touchdown, a pick six. Right, Devin Bush had a pick 6, and then a kick return. Hey yo, the math is not mathing. But Shedeur Sanders somehow found a way to get them a pick 6. We'll give him credit for that, even though, shout out our guy Devin Bush as well too. So yeah, they got the 97-yard interception return. Oh, and then a fumble recovery as well, and then a field goal in the 3rd quarter, and then a field goal in the 4th. So classic Bengals fashion as well, giving a game away. Definitely not something that unfortunately is new to a Joe Burrow-led performance. Not saying that that's something, always correlated to him, but, the interception was for sure. But, he's a little Aaron Rodgers-esque in that way where it does seem like his teams have that bad luck. We put him in the Andrew Luck lineage, but maybe it is the Peyton Manning lineage. Maybe it's the wrong quarterback for the Colts. Maybe it goes Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow as like, do we have to go back and reevaluate this quarterback's career as like the stats around them compared to their teams in certain moments? Manning has the pick in the Super Bowl. There's some stuff, but, also Vanderjagt missing the field goal. There's some defenses later on in his career as well. Again, rest in peace, Jacoby Jones. But, I mean, speaking of defenses, unfortunately, that play, like, what do you want Peyton Manning? And you hate to say it just 2 plays, but imagine, again, the totality of what 2 Super Bowl runs could be for a career where he would have 4 to Brady's, obviously, Brady was able to pull away in a crazy fashion at the end of the day. But if he makes a Super Bowl run in 2005, if Vanderjagt makes that field goal against the Steelers, and if they make a Super Bowl run when the Ravens make the run that year, and Jacoby Jones has that crazy play, and they're able to win that game, who knows what that does for his legacy. But again, Rodgers has some of those moments, like where the Seattle's hitting game-winning plays and the defense is giving it up pause, and you've got Burrow in some ways getting a little lucky with the defense stopping Tyreek Hill on the goal line at the first half of that Chiefs game. And there was also the offensive line kind of pass rushing at the end of that Super Bowl. Maybe there were some plays he could have made getting it to Jamar Chase. Who knows? But, maybe it's in a little bit more of that lineage where, just some interceptions and some defensive plays kind of make up for why your record is, I don't know. But, yeah, either way, shout out. I assume that these teams will be matched up again in 2026. Shador versus Burrow. Lock it in. Prime time. Sunday night. Calling it right here, chat. The Browns will be on Sunday night this year because of next year, I guess, because of Shador Sanders. It is what it is. But hey, McCarthy, did he even play today? They did win, so let's hope. We got to not tune in. Hey, speaking of Clayton Tune, chat, there it is. That's 4 for 4. That's 4 for 4. Shout out. That's on the Mount Rushmore. Clayton Tune, 6 for 11 for 34. Hey, no disrespect. It's a difficult world out there playing quarterback in the NFL. It's just, sometimes you take a stat line to appreciate. Sometimes you need a guy to go 6 for 11 for 34 to appreciate how good Pat Mahomes is and just how good it is to put up stats like that week over week. McCarthy, 14 for 23, 182. No touchdowns, no interceptions. So we're focusing on that. And Brosmer did go 7 for 857. So you hate every quarterback that has played for Minnesota sort of has looked really good. Factor of the J.J. McCarthy experience. But Jefferson, 8 for 101 today. His best like end of the season game that maybe he's had in a while. We do, remember the game that he had the run that he had a couple years ago where he had a great season and then a little bit of a tough fantasy playoffs. And we had him that fantasy playoffs. So I guess if your fantasy championship was this week, maybe it was probably last week. But so did he have a great game last week? I don't think he had 101 yards on 8 catches and no touchdown. So, but still, like 18 fantasy points? Not bad. You'll take it. You're going to need a couple other great performances as well, too, to take the crown. But, yeah, Minnesota could be a veteran spot as well, too. I don't think they're a draft team. Maybe that's the tiers that we put it in. Draft and free agency. Who would make a move in the draft? And, who would need to acquire maybe a little bit more of a steadier presence. Because like we're saying, Raiders, Jets, Cardinals would be the draft teams. And like we said, the Bengals are not. So the Dolphins would be a Dolphin. Mac Jones, the Dolphins. Ooh, maybe that's it right there. The Mike McDaniels, or I guess not this year, but, there's like a San Francisco connection roundabout thing going on there. So you could see that. I could see that. Maybe that's our new prediction. So maybe we'll do a quarterback landing spots and offseason predictions pod. I mean, we've obviously wandered into that direction a little bit this episode, but there's 32 teams. There's hundreds of players. There's lots of moves to be made. Hey, the NFL doesn't stop, chat. You can follow it here on the REMINGTOM pod. We're locked in. Okay, we do have our second round pick this year, the Colts. Shout out. So 46. Oh, chat. It's like that Carson Wentz draft all over again. And I think was Alec Pierce the first pick in that draft? I don't remember exactly who our pick was that year, but it was, it's like, okay, we got to wait all the way until this draft, and I don't even know if that was like the best value on the board, but Pierce has been amazing, so it turned out to be actually a great pick. But yeah, we'll have to see what it turns into this year. It's also projected a receiver as well, but we were kind of in that same middle of the tier first round spot, so kind of in the same 40s. And the reason I remember that as well too, I guess the reason I remember the Pierce draft is because we traded out of the Pickens pick, and I think we traded out of the range to take Pickens, and I'm assuming that was the year that for some reason we had traded that pick for Carson Wentz. I think that all had lined up, but yeah, right now they have us taking Chris Brazzell II from Tennessee on Tankathon over Christian Miller, the defensive lineman from Georgia. Hey, yo. I don't know. Deontay Lawson, Alabama linebacker. Jacoby Lane, USC wide receiver. Oh, Surratt, the Indiana wide receiver. They have him going 62 right now. He could be an interesting name that rises up as well. Nussmeier in the third to Arizona, so they have them waiting a little bit. Trevor Gooseby? Hey, yo. Where's Lou Jack and Gooseby at? That's crazy. But they haven't taken Ruben Bain at 4th. So if Mendoza and Dante Moore are off the board, and obviously you're not taking Simpson 4th overall, but maybe our guy Chambliss continues to move up the list as well, too. Maybe they would, obviously Bain is going to be a crazy talent to pass on if you have the opportunity to take him. Ruben Bain and Max Crosby as a duo would be pretty crazy. You have Tyree Wilson there, so I don't know. Are you set? Are you set from defensive line with Tyree Wilson? But yeah, some of these just quote unquote random backups have been okay. It is what it is. I think what was the stat line? I guess for this Tennessee guy as well. Brandon Allen, shout out. Not just a guy. Brandon Allen, iconic. Oh, he's got to be on the bingo card. Brandon Allen has to be on the bingo card as well. So Josh Dobbs, Brandon Allen, and who was the other one? Not Josh Freeman. Shout out. I just keep thinking about Josh Freeman. But Josh Johnson. Hey, yo. It is what it is. We would have got there. Brissett, I think, is, a little bit more locked in terms of you might get him starting like he did this year. A good 6 or 7 games if you need him to. 5, 6, 7 games. You could see him in that range. So maybe a different bingo card. I feel like Tua. Tua might be headed for the... Hey, yo, wait a second. Tua's playing this week? What's happening there? And then who was the Jets quarterback? Brady Cook. He's also played a couple of games as well, too. Trubisky has been locked into Buffalo for a while, so he's not that same sort of, journeyman bounce-around quarterback type of thing. Mariota a little bit. But, again, like Josh Johnson will play for 3 teams in a season if he needs to versus sometimes... maybe these guys are more locked in for a team as their actual backup, like we're saying. Trubisky. Tanner McKee is the guy that played for Philly today. So Pickett, who was on the Raiders, Pickett might be in this list as well too. Did he play for the Raiders and for the Eagles this year, and maybe even a third team? I don't know. But Josh Johnson, how many more teams before he plays for all 32 teams? Has anybody ever actually played for all 32 teams? Joshin? What's his name? Josh Johnson. Here we go. Almost a 20-year career for our guy. 15-year career. Shout out. Takes a lot to hang around in the league this long. Pause. But he has. Is this less teams than we thought? Hey, yo, what do we got going on here? We've got 7 teams for Josh Johnson. 3 years in Tampa, 2 in Washington, 2 in Baltimore, 1 in the Jets, 1 in Cincinnati, 2 games in Cincinnati, 2 in San Francisco, and 1 in Cleveland. And then I guess now, what are we saying? 1 in Washington. I guess he's already got 2 years in Washington under his belt, though. So he's just back. So didn't he have an Indy run, though? I feel like Indy signed him. I guess I don't know if he ever played. Well, he didn't play. It's literally not logged in the stats. And then I guess a San Diego Fleet and Wildcats appearance as well, too, in the XFL and in the AAFL. So, he's always starting somewhere. He's always playing. He's always popping up. You'll just see like a CBS random, like, oh, wait, the XFL is on? Is that Josh Johnson? Oh, wait a second. Is Washington's playing Week 18? Is that Josh Johnson? What's this new show on Tubi? Is that Josh Johnson? That's the last step, is for him to be popping up as a cameo. If Josh Johnson has a Tubi cameo, how has that not happened? The NFL needs to put him in as a cameo. Cooper Rush, that could be another guy on the bingo card as well, too. I don't think he needs a Tubi cameo. Marshawn Lynch is his cousin? Oh, Chad, I didn't even know that. There we go. We need Marshawn Lynch and Josh Johnson as Tubi cameos. That would be perfect. Marshawn Lynch, yeah, especially as a Tubi cameo would be great. But, hey, we need Josh Johnson to play for all 32 teams. Let's get some teams out here signing Josh Johnson. Let's get him in a game for Indy. So he needs to play a game for Indy next year. He hasn't played for Miami yet. Miami might need him for a couple of games. Let's get him maybe Carolina. Or it would be like a Bryce Young game where they need to take a break or something. I don't know. But shout out. Good to have our guy back for Week 18. So, that's where we're at with Week 18 right now. It is what it is. Of course, the Sunday night game is the primetime game in terms of the playoff stuff. And we will, of course, be, following the playoff matchups as they happen as well. And I guess playoff predictions and, we'll get into all that stuff. Do we need to assemble a 2025 lineup? We did, of course, talk a little bit about some of the guys that were having impressive seasons with the MVP ballot in terms of Garrett and JSN and some of the other names that were mentioned, and just looking at the games here as well too to see what we missed. We mentioned Jackson Dart here. Let's double check what did he have for his day just to see. And Joe Milton as well too. Joe Milton 7 for 13, 73 yards and a pick. Dart 22 for 32, 230 and a touchdown. Sorry, 2 touchdowns. So wait, let's see what he had on the season here. And here, actually, let's just go look at this last draft. A little draft recap. I guess that's good. See what the rookie production was for the season. And, Dart compared to Cam Ward as well, too. He, of course, was able to start more games. 3,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 picks. But Dart was putting up some good, impressive numbers as well, too. So, I guess only getting to the 2,000-yard mark. Again, 230 less passes as well. But I guess 13 touchdowns to 15 touchdowns for Cam Ward. So that does show you, again, they're definitely moving the football up and down the field a little bit more consistently. Yeah, a little bit better roster as well, too. Again, Brian Burns, on the other end, is actually getting sacks and stuff as well, too. The team's kind of decent, but 5 interceptions as well, too. A little less there. So Shuck, maybe on the per game number, is a little bit higher. And then Shador, 1289, 7-10, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks. Hey, that's not looking great there. You got Dylan Gabriel at 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Oh, no. And then Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, getting a little bit of production there at the end. But yeah, I imagine all 3 of those guys, and I guess Shador, like we're saying, shout out. I imagine you got 4 guys potentially starting. And if Riley Leonard is playing week 1, 5 starting quarterbacks from week 1 for the 2025 NFL class, I don't know if we would have locked that in. But I guess you probably would set the over-under at 3.5 going into the offseason next year, maybe even 4.5 if you really think Cleveland's set there. But at this point, I guess pre-draft, you would say 3.5. Rushing, Gene T, 888. Henderson got to 858 and Judkins 827. So not in the same backfield this year, but still the production's looking like it. Splitting touchdowns, 7 apiece as well. Henderson outgaining him from a yardage standpoint. Bill, our guy Bill, 662 carries, 776 yards for him. And Montague, the running back for the Bears, has played well over the last handful of weeks as well, too. I guess, what is his games? Doesn't have games played here listed. Oh, Scattaboo. R.I.P. chat. We forgot about Cam Scattaboo. Scams? Oh, Chad, he's not a scam. He's worth every penny. Pause. Cam Scattaboo. One of the more impressive starts to the season. But, yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. Named down a little bit farther on the list. And then for receivers, we got McMillan getting to the 1,000-yard mark. So McMillan, honestly, might be Rookie of the Year as well, too. Oh, and Buka was going to be that. And then I guess the production just didn't quite continue in the same way. Same with Warren. There was definitely a case back when they had actually consistent quarterback play. It would be Warren. And for some reason, it didn't feel like Phillip Rivers was consistently, looking for him as well, too. He was definitely, finding Alec Pierce and some stuff. And shout out, Pierce definitely continued to emerge over the course of the season. Fannin, impressive. The tight ends from this class, more impressive than the receivers almost. Warren, Fannin, Gadsden from the Chargers, and Loveland from the Bears. And then you've also got Burden in Chicago, Higgins in Houston, Tennessee, a couple of Tennessee guys, and then Jets in Tennessee. Mostly just Jets in Tennessee at the end of this list as well. So not a ton of rookie receivers getting production this year. McMillan and Mbuka, and then basically Burden and Higgins, for sure. But now that the team is back and healthy, he's still a good part of the team. I guess he's still making big plays. He's still making big plays for sure. So we can't discredit him as well, too. So we got 4 guys basically making major impact, and then not necessarily fair to the Tennessee guys. They are going to be good going forward for sure. Noel, he's not bad. I guess it's just the numbers as well, too, the opportunity. But 4 major impact receivers, we'll say, for this draft. And then do we have sack and interception totals here as well, too? Pierce with 8.5. Jalen Walker. So shout out to Atlanta. They went all in on getting the defensive line guys for this draft, and I'm sure they had the most opportunity as well, too. But, hey, at least they were the most productive. 13 sacks combined is pretty good. Scorton, second round, the number 2 is good value for Carolina, and then Abdul Carter as well, right there near the top. Again, 4. If you said Abdul Carter, 4 sacks as a rookie, you'd be like, what? But, again, he's 4th in the class. He's right there with those other guys as well too. Eman Wari with a couple sacks was was a menace this year as well too. Was able to get an interception. See a couple of guys with 2. Oh, Watts for Atlanta with 5. Wow, so what a class for Atlanta, the defensive class. Offensively, Kirk Cousins, like again, the team was like okay with Kirk Cousins. So not to say that Penix couldn't have been better going into next year, but that'll be, better over the course of the year if he had played, but that'll be an interesting one going into next year to see what the quarterback is going to look like and what we think of that team, because that defense, I guess, like we're seeing, has definitely proved that it might be trending in the right direction. Denzel Burke from Arizona with 3, and then, you got a bunch of guys with 2 this year. Mbuka, who we liked in the draft, had a good year this year. Shout out. That was my number 1 guy, Mbuka, and even Wari as well, too. We like our safeties. It is what it is. But, I guess the rookie class update for 2025. I guess nobody from the rookies probably going to jump on first team All-Pro. Again, maybe Mbuka was going to be there for a second. I guess maybe no, because Trey McBride is the first team All-Pro tight end. It is what it is there. And then, like we said, Puka and JSN have to be the receivers. Though if we have to put Puka in timeout and not have him on first team All-Pro, the off the court All-Pros, I don't know if he's making that list as of right now. But in terms of the numbers, again, he was obviously on a per game basis. The Rams were getting him those stats. It is what it is. But we'll pencil in Puka, but maybe another honorary guy as well too. Pickens, do we get Pickens an honorary spot for putting Puka in timeout? Pause. Hey yo. Trey McBride, tight end, like we said. Oh, Chase with 16 yards, 117 catches, and 7 touchdowns. Let's double check. Did anybody go crazy on the touchdowns that we're missing out this year? Adams with 14. So Adams takes his teammate's spot. We do have Amon-Ra, though. 106, 12, 62 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And then Pickens was at 92 catches, touchdowns. So he is also, like we said, in the case of, it is for Puka, easy. Lock it in, stats. That's probably what it's going to end up being. But it's either got to, and I guess we do have a third guy for receivers. So we'll run a little 11 personnel. So we've got to have it either be Pickens, Chase, or who was the other guy that we ended up saying? Pickens, Chase, not Devontae. Devontae is probably not going to end up making it. Shout out. 900 yards. You got to get 1,000. Or we just put Zay Flowers in the All-Pro team as well, too. So Amon-Ra, Chase, or Pickens. I guess 3, 4, and 5 for receiving yards. So we do have Pickens in terms of explosive plays being the biggest play guy that they have there of those 3. Again, Amon-Ra with the consistency and the Lions being the better team of these 3. And Jamar Chase was shouted out in the new JID album this past year. JID saying he's the one that catch fades like Jamar Chase. So I think honestly for that reason, he might be in the list. But Pickens did have a pretty fun year. Though he's not like crazy yardage above him, and a couple more touchdowns though. But Chase is Chase. It is what it is. And you still watch the games, and it's pretty clear that Chase is, like the top 3 receiver in the league. So we've got, hot take, JSN, Puka, and Chase are the 3 All-Pro receivers. I guess we'll see if he actually makes All-Pro, but our version. REMINGTOM Pro, we've got JSN, Puka, and Jamar Chase. We've got Trey McBride as the tight end. I guess this team probably won't have a quarterback. It is what it is. Mahomes and Danny Dimes both got hurt. So our quarterbacks are off the table. I guess James Cook has to be the running back. I don't know. Can we get an all-purpose yardage case here for Jonathan Taylor? Can we get once the team fell apart? 18 touchdowns to 10? Oh, perfect. It's right there. Oh, McCaffrey, though, as the all-pro running back, he did have a crazy all-purpose season. I know that yardage-wise, there are a couple of guys ahead of him here. We do see, it's not going to be crazy. Oh, Henry right there with 1,500 yards. Cook at 1,606 and 12 touchdowns, the only 100-yard per game running back. You would like to definitely pay pay respects to that. And 318 carries, less than 3 yards an attempt for McCaffrey. Again, it's not necessarily like the most explosive like ground game season, but also having nearly 1,000 yards receiving on top of that, 924 yards receiving and 1,200 yards rushing. So if you're at 2,026 yards and 17 touchdowns, you're probably going to end up being the all-pro running back. But maybe he's second team. Maybe he's second team and James Cook is first. I mean, I guess James Cook, he only needs 400 receiving yards to be at 2,000 all-purpose. So let's double-check that. And Taylor could definitely get 500 receiving yards, at this point in the season as well. And even his receiving over the last couple of weeks has been a way to keep him, of course, involved. Like, especially today, you can see him getting some targets with the Houston, basically shutting down the run game. So, Bijan. Bijan actually leads the league in scrimmage yards. Whoa, so everybody's, McCaffrey. Bijan in 16 games is even more impressive stats a little bit. Rushing yards per game, way more in the rush. Where's his receiving at? 810. So we've got him at 50 yards per game to McCaffrey's 54 and 90 rush yards per game to McCaffrey 70. So, I guess I don't even think this is a conversation. Shout out Taylor. He's right there. 1924. So he did cross the 2,000 scrimmage yard mark today. And 20 touchdowns, 2,000 yards. Oh, he's on the list, chat. He's on the list. That's the rule. I read that earlier in the CBA. They said if a running back gets 2,000 scrimmage yards, and did he get to 2,000 scrimmage yards? Where was he at? Oh, he was only 2 for 13. We saw his 111-yard catch and gave him credit for the entire game. Pierce 4 for 132 and 2 touchdowns, going absolutely insane. So he had 39 scrimmage yards today. Oh no, he didn't get there, chat. He didn't get there. It is what it is. He finished with 1,900 and less than 2,000. So, unfortunately, Bijan takes the spot. It is, but I guess 22-11 to 21-17. Bijan being a little bit more, but the Niners are better as well too. I guess it's be Jonathan Taylor. I guess it's gonna be McCaffrey. So the first team All-Pro will just be the NFC West. So maybe that's why we don't take Stafford as the All-Pro quarterback as well. But I kind of want to put Herbert as the All-Pro quarterback. If we're making a biased REMINGTOM team and I can't decide between Drake May and Matt Stafford for MVP, let's just put Herbert on the list and see what happens. I know that, like we said, some of the numbers not fully there compared to the others. So maybe it can't be Goff. They can't make the playoffs. So maybe it would be Josh Allen as well too for our bias list here. Let's see what kind of bias list does that mean? He would be 4th in passer rating, so it's not crazy. QBR, though, May number 1 in QBR as well too. People love that for MVP. We go Purdy. We go Bijan for running back. Purdy for quarterback. No, it's safe to say Josh Allen. So not a hot take, boring, and probably not the right pick for the year. But we've got Josh Allen as our MVP quarterback, and I know we recapped our offense a bunch, but it is what it is. I don't know if we'll go through the offensive line spots for our team. Shout out to Quentin Nelson. We got Quentin Nelson at guard, and we really don't even need anybody else. It is what it is. We'll take the Colts offensive line, and hopefully it goes well. We'll see what happens. But at least we get Quentin Nelson in that spot as well. So, we do have Myles Garrett also on our defensive line. Who knows who else is in the league besides that at this point. But I assume Burns at 16 sacks is also going to be in the mix. Oh, Benito, like we said earlier. Benito's got to be the other all-pro edge as well. That Denver defense has been pretty crazy. Surtain probably going to make the cornerback group for all-pro corners as well. I don't know, is Watts going to be in the mix for safeties? Bates with the interceptions over the last couple of years. So I don't know, people throwing at him a little bit more. Who actually led in interceptions this year? We'll see. Kevin Byard. Whoa, the veteran. Shout out with 6. Lloyd from Jacksonville with 5. And then Ernest Jones from Seattle with 5 as well too. It's true. I kind of just want to put a bunch of the Seattle guys pause on the All-Pro team as well. We just put Witherspoon on the team. We might have to go double check some of these PFF ratings to see what we have here. Okay, let's double check. Witherspoon's going to be the first name that we bring up. Unfortunately for our guy Sauce Gardner, we have to now be biased and I guess consider Sauce Gardner as our new favorite corner in the league. But I guess it is probably Witherspoon. It is what it is, especially since the Chiefs are bad now, and it can't be McDuffie as well. So since the Seahawks are good and we're banned, and Buka, I guess he's a safety, so he might not necessarily count. Charbonnet, and they have Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker though, graded out as the second and third running backs in the league. And yes, they have Witherspoon as the number one corner, so it's going to be Surtain and Witherspoon as our corners. Can Eman Wari get on as a safety? They have him as the 21st graded safety. I guess they say no. It is what it is. Wait, who are we just going to check? I guess Sauce Gardner. Check out the Sauce Gardner ranking. Micah Parsons, first team All-Pro this year as well. We might have to do a little bit of research on the linebackers as well. Though, of course, who's the guy on Philly that we are thinking of? He is a menace from time to time. Bond, what's Bond's rating at this year? They have Bond at 5th. Okay, so it could definitely be him. Sawyer from Pittsburgh has been pretty impactful. I don't know if he's an edge rusher or if they're going to give him linebacker status. Let's see here. Oh, Cam Hayward they have graded as number 1 interior. Shout out. So he might make the list there. Where's Sawyer? They have Sawyer as an edge rusher. Oh, they went 104 out of 114. We've only seen his impactful plays. It is what it is. Maybe just strictly rushing the passer. Don't watch him try to stop the run is maybe the secret to his game. It is what it is. So no Fred Warner this year, is going to leave some opportunity for the linebacker. Trent Williams, though, still number 3 tackle. C-Chat still got it. And yeah, Fred Warner, number 1 linebacker. So how many games played did he end up getting? Maybe he still can qualify for 2025. It's not showing here on PFF when he got hurt. Over under 10 games. Do you have to? Is there a minimum in the NFL like there is in the NBA now? I guess we don't know for a fact. They haven't made it as clear as the 65 game mark for football. Oh, chat. Hey, yo. Just trying to find the Fred Warner page. See what we have for games played. 6 games played. So MVP for Purdy in 9 games and first team All-Pro for Fred Warner in 6 games. I don't know. Again, we said it was a biased list. It is what it is. So, hey, yo, week 18 for the NFL is in the books. We've got, like we said, Sunday Night Football quickly approaching to see who will win the AFC North, and some fun basketball to wind down the night as well, too. So don't forget to be back for the Tuesday night live stream. We look forward to seeing y'all there. Of course, we'll be back later this week, Tuesday and Friday nights. And you can follow us next week as well, too, as we start playoff action and figure out who's going to win the Super Bowl this year. Hey, yo, we have no idea, but that's probably going to be fun, right? It's going to be fun not knowing. I guess it's going to be fun. It's not going to be a ton of fun because the mystery does not involve the Colts. It is what it is. But it'll be a mystery for one of these other teams to have a good time winning the Super Bowl, so that'll be exciting, I guess, to figure out. And basically all new names as well, too. Again, this is, it's a credit to Mahomes that Mahomes has just dominated the league over the last couple of years. He's not allowed anybody to be good. But it is a bunch of guys that outside of Stafford, haven't really even, well, I guess we can't say like they haven't even really had playoff minutes. But yeah, like Drake May, obviously new to the playoffs. I guess Rodgers, new to the AFC playoffs, is maybe, unfortunately for the Jets run, new to the AFC playoffs. Again, I guess like Lawrence has been there. Herbert's been there. So it's just new opportunities. A new opportunity, new face. We'll see a new champion, I guess, out of the AFC. Burrow, like we said, has been the only other guy that's even made a Super Bowl out of the AFC at this point, and they're not in the playoffs. So there will be a new AFC representative. And then Philly, I guess, is the legacy-ish team as well here, too. We've seen the Niners, of course, in a conference championship a couple times. We haven't seen Purdy in a Super Bowl himself. And the Seahawks, we were seeing the stats about the Seahawks being in the Super Bowl every time the Pope gets elected. So to be honest, it might honestly just be as easy as that. It might be as easy as new Pope, and they're the best team, and they have JSN, and I guess there's nobody else in the AFC that would make it as well too. Did they lose both those Super Bowls? Because they lost the first one. The first one that was on that run of Pope, the Pope correlation was the Hasselbeck team in 05 with Sean Alexander. And of course, they ended up losing to Pittsburgh. So does that mean Pittsburgh wins tonight and they re-get there? But the thing is, the new Pope is also a Bears fan. So they have to go through the NFC. So it could be the Bears if it's the Pope corollary. So I don't know if there's a Seahawks of the AFC that we could find. But yeah, it could just be easy as Seahawks versus Josh Allen is going to be the matchup. But there is only a couple of old familiar names, and it will be a fun landscape to see what we get for this year's playoffs. But yeah, we'll be following here. You can follow us on the YouTube. You can follow us on the podcast feeds. You can hit us up on Instagram at REMINGTOM as well too. And we look forward to seeing you all on the next live stream. Enjoy the next couple of days. Peace.